Apparently, in the United States, there's a government shutdown going on. I don't know if anybody's noticed or not. I certainly haven't noticed anything. Something from Revolver News, the looming Dem shutdown turning into a biblical-style mess for the left. The American Democratic Party is ready to crush the entire US government into a wall because Chuck Schumer is terrified of Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. He's so worried about a primary challenge from everyone's favorite Brooklyn bartender, he's caving to the radicals in his party, setting up a full-blown government shutdown just to make them happy. And what is the prize they're fighting for, you might wonder? Well, it's free healthcare for illegal aliens, of course. This should come as a surprise to no one. Freebies for illegals is right up there with their obsession with coddling criminals. We really can just flip a switch with a lot of this chat. The illegals, they have to go back, round them up and send them home. Criminals, lock them up. Broken windows policing, 3 strikes policies. Clang bang, problem solved. And we used to do that. We used to have functioning societies where crime was low and people felt free to be outdoors and not really think that their lives were in danger. I believe the shutdown was overturned or something similar recently about an hour or two ago with a 52-48 Senate vote. Was it? Why don't we see what's going on? Let's go to the hub for breaking news, and that's X. U.S. federal government entered a shutdown at midnight, October 1st, 2025, furloughing hundreds of thousands of workers after Senate Democrats rejected a Republican-backed continuing resolution to extend funding through November 21st. See if we got anything on ground news. Senate again fails to pass bills aimed at funding government as blame game continues. I've sent something of the likes from leaflet servers, so don't quote me on it. It was a vote on something else. More than likely a vote from something else. Anyways, back to the article here at Revolver. Who could forget the 2019 Democratic primary debate when every single Democrat on stage raised their hand in support of giving illegals free health care? This image should be burned into the brains of every single American. Of course, Dems are trying to spin this nightmare as something else, but the truth is out and Americans know exactly what's going on. Democrats have made some monumental mistakes leading up to this shutdown. They previously announced they would shut down the government to appease their far-left base. They announced shutdown plans before they had demands, and it's all about Schumer's fear of an AOC primary. Vice President Vance revealing Democrats are pushing a $1.5 trillion package that funds free healthcare for illegals, and they're willing to shut down the government over it.
We just had a very frank conversation with the Senate and House Democratic leadership. Look, the principle at stake here is very simple. We have disagreements about tax policy, but you don't shut that government down. We have disagreements about health care policy, but you don't shut the government down. You don't use your policy disagreements as leverage to not pay our troops, to not have essential services of government actually function. You don't say the fact that you disagree about a particular tax provision is an excuse for shutting down the people's government and all the essential services that come along with it. If you look at what Chuck Schumer has said in the past consistently, it's whatever our disagreements are, let's negotiate with them. Let's talk about them. Let's figure out a bipartisan solution, but you don't shut the government down. In other words, you don't put a gun to the American people's head and say, unless you do exactly what Senate and House Democrats want you to do, we're going to shut down your government. That's exactly what they're proposing out there. Now, we have to remember, they're very frustrated. They say that they're very frustrated about the fact that this negotiation has not taken place until today. But if you look at the original thing they did with this negotiation, it was a $1.5 trillion spending package, basically saying to the American people, we want to give massive amounts of money, hundreds of billions of dollars to illegal aliens for their health care, while Americans are struggling to pay their health care bills. That was their initial foray into this negotiation. We thought it was absurd. We told them it was absurd, and now they come in here saying that if you don't give us everything that we want, we're going to shut down the government. We think that's...
Democrats just look at these illegal aliens as cheap votes. What they have effectively told the Republicans is, give us free stuff for the people that we want voting illegally in elections so they can keep electing us into power, and so that we can keep you lot out of power. And if you don't give us that, we're going to shut down the government. And the Republicans have responded quite rightly by saying, all right, shut it down. See if we care. Most people won't notice it anyway, and most of our constituents would be happy to see most of the government shut down. Every time this happens, the media tries to gaslight you into thinking it's going to be so awful. I've lived through several American government shutdowns already, and I can tell you, much like the meme itself, nothing ever happens. People still go about their lives as normal. The post gets delivered on time. You hardly notice it. The idea that America is a white nation that must be preserved is disgusting from Ilhan Omar just now. She would say something like that, wouldn't she? But the heritage of the United States of America is primarily as a white nation. It's an uncomfortable truth that a lot of people don't want to admit to themselves. They still talk about this whole propositional nation nonsense. Fact of the matter is, the United States was founded by European stock, and it was founded with European stock in mind. And that is neither evil nor racist to say. Anyone who says otherwise is trying to gaslight you, because in their heart of hearts, they hate white people. Of course she'd say that. I expect nothing less from a Somalian agent who's changed her state flag to look more like Somalia and specifically moved Somalians to the state she runs. Yes, he needed a voting bloc. He needed a constituency that she could consistently depend upon. And so she imported it. Cheap votes. That's all it was. And they will vote for her over and over again because she looks like them. And yet it's fine when they do something like that. But God forbid white people should do the same. Oh no, we can't have that now, can we? By the way, that thing you saw in Leaflet's server, post that in news and politics in my server, if you would please. I'd like to take a look at that. The thing about the Senate vote.
Preposterous. We think it's totally unacceptable, and we think the American people are going to suffer because these guys won't do the right thing. Now, I want to make one final point here. You will hear a lot from Senate Democrats, from House Democrats about the fact that American healthcare policy is broken. Well, we know that American healthcare policy is broken. We've been trying to fix it for the 8 months that we've been in office, but every single thing that they accuse about being broken about American healthcare is policy the Democrats have supported for the past decade. So if they want to talk about how to fix American healthcare policy, let's do it. The Speaker would love to do it. The Senate Majority Leader would love to do it. Let's work on it together, but let's do it in the context of an open government that's providing essential services to the American people. That's all that we're proposing to do, and the fact that they refuse to do that shows how unreasonable their position is. I think we're headed to a shutdown because the Democrats won't do the right thing. I hope they change their mind, but we're going to see.
It's nice to see a vice president taking such an active role in things. And the vice president is looking more presidential with each passing day. Trump administration not backing this because the American people are done with this sort of nonsense. A staggering 65% flat out reject this shutdown and the idea of footing the bill for illegal health care. It's absurd. RNC research tweeting out 65% of Americans say no to the Democrats' shutdown. 65%, not a slim majority. A tidal wave of opposition. It's a massive mess for the Dems. Take a look at what happened when former Democrat presidential candidate Andrew Yang ran his own poll. If the government shuts down this week, who would you attribute it to? 63%. The Dems. And why wouldn't people blame the Democrats? They're the ones out there calling this their fight and vowing not to back down. Alright, you own it. God, I'll see if I can find it. I have to scroll quite a bit up, though. Take your time. And of course, they trot out the usual things. A bigotry will get you nowhere. Insert jerk-off hand motion here. Schumer and Jeffries holding the line as their entire party collapses around them in biblical fashion. It's a total shit show. The only reason we're here is because the extremists now run the Democrat Party. And Schumer has sold what little backbone he had left to try and keep his job. As the whole thing implodes, you can see the desperation written all over their face of the anti-Trump media. They look like deer in the headlights, fully aware of the impact that's coming. Just look here at Morning Joe's face while Chuck tries to spin the shutdown as awesome. Chuck's knuckles are so red you almost wonder if he's been punching walls all morning. My goodness. Those are some very reddish pink hands he's got. I would say he's looking a bit white-knuckled, but no. That does indeed look like he's been punching something. I don't know. You can see the look of disgust here on Joe Scarborough's face. It's like, bro, cringe. Stop it. What's up with the hands? Yikes, easy on the blood thinners, Chucky. Communist red Schumer's knuckles are. New affirmative text response just dropped. Meanwhile, over in the White House press room, Team Trump playing a montage loop of Dems who previously opposed shutdowns. Speaking of resisting shutdowns, nobody was more against shutting down the government than Chuck Schumer. From the persistence, Scott Pressler, Chuck Schumer has advocated against government shutdowns. Now he's changing his tune and holding American families hostage. Democrats' list of demand to fund health care for illegal aliens is reckless. We don't want a shutdown. We want Congress to work for us. And while the American people seethe and Dems try to paint this shutdown as a thumbs-up moment, President Trump is trolling Schumer and Hakeem with Trump 2028 hats, and presumably glasses of Diet Coke. This is what happens when the left lets the AOCs of the world set the agenda. Chaos, collapse, goofy policies no normal American asked for. It's clear that Democrats are governing for the fringe, and the American people are the ones paying the price. This is their shutdown. It's already a complete and total mess for them. Oh yes, in case you haven't heard, a famous illegal alien has been a registered Democrat US voter for 13 years. He's not a US citizen, and yet for 13 years, he's been registered as a Democrat, and more than likely voting in elections. Des Moines School Superintendent Ian Roberts, a school district superintendent, one of the top men in this school district, and he should not even be in the United States. Found it posted in the channel, thank you. Let's see here. Oh, from Benny Johnson. This is from 10:53 a.m. earlier today. Plan to reopen and fund the government fails in the Senate 47 to 53.
3/5 of the senators. On this vote, the yeas are 47, the nays are 53. 3/5 of the senators duly chosen and sworn not having voted in the affirmative. The motion is not agreed to.
And there you have it. Probably because it had some sort of poison pill, namely healthcare for illegals, an automatic non-starter. Does right, somewhat, I suppose. Yeah, somewhat. Anyway, this Des Moines school superintendent, Ian Roberts, he's not the innocent man caught in the crosshairs of an immigration crackdown. He's an illegal alien, he has a shady paper trail, and a laundry list of red flags flapping in the wind. Even Sleepy Joe Biden's DHS issued him a deportation order back in May 2024. Think of that. How bad does this bloke have to be for Biden's own regime to want him gone? But facts have always been an inconvenient thing for the left. They ignore the deportation order. They trip over themselves to paint him as a martyr of Trump's policies. It's practically a skit for Saturday Night Live at this point. And on top of that, reports say Roberts lied on his I-9 about being a US citizen. I know, shocker. People lie on these things. He's also carrying a Maryland state ID that only certain visa holders are eligible for. He apparently even had a social security card issued out of New York. How he got that social security card is a matter of question. Every corner you look at in this person's story, you'll find something shady. Even the very liberal immigration attorneys with Des Moines Public Schools say that serious questions are being raised about the validity of his other credentials. From Dustin Grage, upon learning that Superintendent Ian Roberts was carrying a Maryland ID, I forwarded his information to Maryland Freedom Caucus Chairman Matt Morgan. We can now confirm Roberts is a registered voter in Maryland. So much for Democrats claiming illegal aliens are not on the voter rolls. We can now confirm Des Moines Superintendent Ian Andre Roberts has been registered as a Democrat since 2012 in Maryland. But I was reliably told by Democrats that this doesn't happen. The thing that they claim doesn't happen, happened. But we all know for a fact that illegal aliens are voting in US elections. And it's not always the kind who slither over the border. More often than not, it's ones living here openly, on temporary or expired visas. Like our Mr. Roberts here. And apparently Roberts was not just registered to vote, he actually voted in 2020 and 2024.
You found some people who were illegal immigrants who registered to vote? This is confounding.
Yes, this is actually true. We've sampled a handful of states, and in those handful of states, we found people registered to vote, and we have found people who actually voted. And this is all being done by sampling, okay? So we are sampling DHS data, and then have to go to the voter rolls, check the voter rolls, and then give that to HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, who goes and checks the voter record by subpoena and the cards you sign when you vote. We had already 3 arrests here in Florida, actually.
Wow.
And 1 indictment in New York. They illegally secured social security numbers through the process we talked about last time, asylum or some special program or whatever, and they registered to vote, and they actually voted in 2020 and or 2024. I just want to say this carefully. 3 have been arrested, and 1 has been indicted. The one we indicted, I want to just stop on this guy for a minute, is an Iraqi national. He voted in 2020 in New York.
Dear Lord.
He went to prison for shooting somebody, shot some guy's hand off, has charged, if I remember correctly, $160,000 or $70,000 of benefits through Medicaid, and we think is now in Iraq because he's active on his Facebook page, and the IP address is from Iraq.
Is that the tip of the iceberg?
I'm going to leave the data. So I'm now leaving the data, and I'm entering the area of my opinion. My opinion is that this is the tip of the iceberg. How big the iceberg is, I don't know. And I don't want to speculate because I think it would be
massive.
not what I think we can do at this moment. I think we'll have more data over
It's
time.
massive.
But
The
for
iceberg
sure,
is
we can
massive.
sample out of a database, and it takes an engineer about a day to find 20-ish cases. That gives you an idea of how many there are, right? Here's the reality. Every vote that is cast illegally in America nullifies the vote of an American citizen. It is your constitutional right to vote in America. And if we don't have a zero-defect system, we are violating your constitutional rights.
Simple as. Full stop. He's right. As long as there are illegal aliens voting in America, that nullifies the votes of actual American citizens. And that's the whole idea. That's why Democrats want amnesty for illegals. It's why they want the illegal border crossings to continue. It's why they want people to overstay their visas and remain eligible for all these benefits. They want cheap votes. And they have always had plenty of agent saboteurs in the Republican Party to help them out. Because don't forget, there are still organizations like the Chamber of Commerce that want cheap labor. And they see all of these immigrants, all of these illegal immigrants, as a source of cheap labor. So many industries where these people can be paid in all cash, oftentimes below minimum wage, and it also has an effect of depressing wages of the citizenry. It's a perverse, incestuous relationship that they've had for decades now. And this madness has to stop. Because as it stands right now, you've got multiple factions in the government that don't give a damn about what the people want, or what is good for the people, the actual American people. This has to stop. And the steps taken thus far by the previous administration, well, they're not enough. At this point, illegals seem to be the bread and butter of the Dem Party. They need their votes in order to even appear competitive, especially now that COVID-style voting isn't around anymore.
James O'Keefe here in North Philadelphia on 5th Street. Right here is the Philadelphia City Commissioner's office the day before Election Day, and across the street is an
This is
NGO
from last
called
year.
Saiba. That's Saiba, and they are telling people to vote. They are telling people that all you need is what's called a TIN number. That's I-TIN number, and you can vote if you're not a citizen of the United States. So we sent an undercover reporter to this NGO right across from the place where people are early voting, and she got confirmation that yes, in fact, she can vote with nothing but an I-TIN number.
Yo sí puedo votar, aunque no sea residente ni ciudadana. Sí.
And then we went into the city commissioner's office to speak to the man who works there, working for the city government, confirming that you only need to be a resident of Philadelphia.
But when I say resident, that means of the entire United States. But you're just worried about Philadelphia. Oh, you don't care about anything else. You just want them to have a resident of Philadelphia. After that, you confirm that, you register. Whether you have a social security number or not, you can vote.
Obviously, it's extremely loud here. Music is very loud. So we're going to go ahead and walk across the street and talk to these people.
Hello. Mira, están jodiendo estos mamados.
Are you
Aquí están jodiendo.
Are you Juliesa? Are you Juliesa?
Naturally, they don't want to talk to him. Cowards.
And these people over here across the street are saying that you can vote if you have an I-TIN number. This is the document that they gave us.
Once again,
I-TIN.
I cannot comment because I don't know, no idea.
Of course, you can't comment. Those got some moves. Some estimates suggest nearly 1.5 million illegals are on the US voter rolls. I think that's too conservative. I think there's way more than just 1.5 million. That's a conservative estimate. At this point, it's either a complete joke or extreme gullibility to believe illegals like Ian Roberts are not voting in US elections. The proof is right in front of us. And let's be honest, we can't call ourselves a serious country when people who are not even citizens are helping decide our future. This has to stop. Meanwhile, over in the UK, more signs of the ruling class hate us and want us dead. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has apparently decided to declare war upon his own people. This is from Saga Nabakad.
I am loving this Labour conference, aren't you, folks? This is everything that I said that they were going to do. I did a stream the other day saying Keir Starmer is declaring war on the right And what did he do in his speech today? He came out and told everyone that you're the enemy.
If you say or imply that people cannot be English or British because of the colour of their skin, that mixed heritage families owe you an explanation, that people who've lived here for generations, raised their children here, built their lives here, working in our schools, our hospitals, running businesses, are our neighbours. If you say they should now be deported, then mark my words, we will fight you with everything we have, because you are the enemy of national renewal.
I say.
Then I guess I'm an enemy then. Come and get me, if you dare. Those dancers in the video are funny, LARPing as tribals. Modern Mexicans in America will say I'm Aztec, meanwhile Aztec tribals in Mexico will say I'm Spanish. Yes, because the Aztec tribals in Mexico have more good sense than the Mexicans in America, don't they? They at least know what's what. The so-called modern Mexicans that are living in America, they fly foreign flags as a sign of sort of rootless cosmopolitanism and as a sort of fuck you to the native population. They plant those flags as a statement of war upon the native population and an act of disrespect towards the native population.
People who are foreign are not British. People
Yes.
whose ethnicity you define by reference to a foreign nationality are actually not British. And you know how I know? Is because I have to reference another fucking country for you to even identify them as separate to us.
They're not one of us. They'll never be one of us. They have to go back. Full stop. Simple as.
That's why. That's why I know that fundamentally they are from somewhere else and we are not. That's just the way that these things work. And if you didn't have such an insane view of what it was to be from a nation, to be a part of a nation, to be someone of this place, then this wouldn't be a problem at all. If you would come out and say, you know what, actually, we're happy to have our foreign friends and guests living among us, but the concerns of the native people, the indigenous population of these islands, has to come first, everyone will say, yeah, of course, that's very reasonable. Completely reasonable.
Sensible policy.
Why would I object to that? If I'm a guest in someone else's country, no matter how many generations of my English descendants were guests in another country, I'd say the same thing.
But they will claim that that is racist, and that that's xenophobic, and that no, we have to put the interest of the guests first. We have to put the interest of the invaders first. Never mind that they're the ones that vote for us consistently. We have to put the interest of the invaders first, because they hate the native population, and they want them dead, and they want them replaced with a new underclass composed of the invaders. They see them as easier to control, but as they're finding out, they're not so easy to control. In fact, they're even more difficult to control. And so now they've created this sort of strange Manchurian golem that threatens to devour the entire nation.
But you can't do that. You have to demand that they are in every way the equals to us in this country. You have to demand that they have as much claim to England as me, my children, my family, my friends, my community. You have to demand that these people have as much claim to England as they have to their home countries. As Shabana Mahmood, in fact, running around saying, I'm English, even though she can get a Pakistani passport at any time, because Pakistani citizenship is based on the blood.
Yeah, she has to go back. My God, what a smug, condescending look. What a nasty, condescending, smug-looking woman. Just don't be racist against tribe A, B, and C. Let them into your country. They can be allowed to be racist against each other in your country, however. Stop thinking for yourself now. Exactly. They can't have us thinking for ourselves. They can't have white people awakening to some sort of racial identity. That would be too dangerous. That would be a threat to their power. And yet everything they do seems to awaken that identity anyway.
Patriotism, a force for good, is turning into something smaller, something more like ethno-nationalism.
Oh.
Which struggles to accept that someone who looks like me and has a faith like mine can truly be English or British.
Yeah, but you're not. You're not one of us. You'll never be one of us. You have to go back. Your faith is incompatible with all of Western civilization. And out your heart, you're primitive tribal views on everything are incompatible with the British way of life. You're just going to keep letting in more people who look like you, who come from Pakistan. You're just going to let Pakis flood the halls of power, and then you're going to act shocked when they throw you out because you're a woman. And then Britain's going to have to contend with a power block of a bunch of savage Pakis who are just going to rape, pillage, and plunder the entire fucking country. And they're not going to stop until all of Britannia is reduced to a rubble pile. And then they will continue to rule from atop the rubble pile and demand that you respect them. I have no respect for these people. I don't recognize their authority. Again, they are not us, they're not one of us, they'll never be one of us. They have to go back. Tough words, lady. Now let's see you talk diversity to your homeland, of which you're endlessly proud of. Yeah, she would not be allowed to speak these words where she's originally from. They would silence her, probably on a permanent basis. She'd be lucky if all she faced was a public flogging. Frankly, it's what she deserves now.
She can call us racists and then say, I'm English, I'm English, I'm English, all she wants. But the facts of the matter are that she is in fact a Pakistani woman. She is not English. She has no English blood. She has no British blood whatsoever, in fact. And her parents chose to come here, as she put it, to look for a better life. Well, actually, that's not what I...
The land of my ancestors is not your fucking battery farm. It is not some goddamn economic zone for you to go and serve as cheap labour in and reap benefits from. You should be doing that in your own country. That's all they see. That's all they see Western countries as. They're like confidence artists. They see Western countries as easy marks. They see them as just these economic blocks that they can leech sustenance out of. They don't assimilate, they don't become part of the community because they can't. It's impossible for them. There's no place. We can't share a country with people like this. Again, they have to go back. I wouldn't even mind this whiter Western burden as much if said believers said we were an almighty overseer caste, gods and liberators, but no, we're so evil and oppressive, aren't we? Yes, that part they sincerely believe, the evil and oppressive part. And they see our countries as just fertile soil for them to loot and plunder. That's all they've ever seen our lands as. Again, just an economic zone or a battery farm where they can leech substance off of, rather than, I don't know, integrating, assimilating, becoming a proper part of their communities. But no, it's all just economic zones with them, because God forbid white people have any sort of national identities of their own.
I think my country is for. My country is not for foreigners to come seeking a better life. And then when you decide that actually you're going to put foreigners in positions of power above us, and then act like we should not be concerned about this whatsoever. I mean, who among us is more British than Shabana Mahmood, the woman who says that Islam is her moral compass? And
it's always the same steps with him, isn't it? It's not happening. If it is happening, it's rare, and it's not a big deal. Then it is happening, and it's a good thing. And then it's happening, and you're a bad person for daring to oppose it. The playbook is so repetitive with them.
And guides everything that she does, and will say things like this.
Yeah,
I don't know what she was saying either, Keir, but she's your Home Secretary. I'm absolutely sick of it. They have countries of their own. They can go to other countries where their ethnic group is the majority, and their ethnic group is served by the state, served by their institutions, and they can feel as if the country is run for them. And all I'm asking is to feel that way for me, for my children, for my wife, for my family, for my parents, for my great descendants long into the future.
Oh dear Lord. Oh my God. Leaflet. My dear lady. Thank you so much for the follow. Good God, that came as such a shock to me. Thank you so much. You have you have rendered me absolutely at a loss for words, my dear lady. Thank you. And thank you for the first time chat. I cannot tell you how honored I feel by just having your presence here. And congratulations on your recent subathon. And I just know that I was completely and totally sincere when I said I absolutely adore you. You are a wonderful VTuber and an excellent content creator, and I hope to even be 1/10 of as good a content creator as you. Thank you, it was great. I'm really tired, just vibing basically. Well, I am honored that you chose to vibe with me and with the rest of the nobles. Thank you so very much. Really, this is, my God. Senpai noticed me, chat. Yes, thank you. I'm vibing too much food. Ah, yes, Phalanx, you've partaken in we saw in the server you're partaking in Taco Tuesday on Wednesday, but you know, better late than never, right? Though I still don't quite understand the whole thing with the black olives in tacos. I didn't know that was a thing. I guess it must be a West Coast thing. It was on X. Your going live picture was epic. I cannot take all the credit for that, but thank you. I had a lot of help from the Imagine function in Grok, and just managed to cobble that together in a quick little template on Canva. So yes, that's the secret to the epicness. Maybe had them in burritos when I was a kid. Really? Never heard of that before. Must be a regional thing. But yes, thank you, my dear lady. This is... Let me know if you want a sort of 2 invite. I would absolutely be honored. Yes, thank you. I very much appreciate it. Yes, do feel free to DM it to me over on Discord or X or whatever's convenient for you. But yes, thank you. My goodness. Almost brought a tear to my eye. Quick, flustering and more. Don't... Hey, thanks. Stop it. Easily flustered by people I look up to as it is. Bloody Nora, cheers for the notice leaflet. Yes. Yes, and everybody, I have to do this. I mean, it almost seems a bit superfluous at this point, but please, everybody, go follow my Oshi leaflet, and support her in every way that you can. You know, drop a sub and, you know, use your Prime subscription and everything else, please. She's an absolutely fantastic streamer, and I've actually got, I think, 1 or 2 tabs up of some of your videos that I want to do some reacts to later on. We'll get to that. Yeah, do the thing. Do all the thing. Yes, we must do all the things. But yes, thank you. Thank you again. Right. Let's press on, please, before I become even more of a mess than I already am.
Asking for is for my country not to be stolen from future generations through mass immigration. That's all I'm asking for. And you know what? That's actually a really, really low bar. It's a really reasonable thing. And what did you come out and do? You came out and declared everyone was a racist for thinking this, and also you've declared war on them. If you think then that people who are not ethnically from these islands, as in...
Yes, subscribe, donate, or get the fuck out. Yes, do all the things.
English, Scottish, Welsh, or Northern Irish, if I think those people are not just as British as the rest of us, then I'm the enemy. So every Somali that jumps off a boat, everyone who breaks into this country, and then you just hand out documents to his citizenship as much as you can. If I don't think those people are British, then yeah, I guess I am your enemy. I am the enemy of national renewal, whatever that means.
Yeah, it's a meaningless term. Much like they're trying to make the British identity, or the English identity, or the Scottish identity, or the Welsh identity worthless. Because if anyone can lay claim to it just like that, it doesn't really have much value, does it? I mean, it has to mean something. I mean, I can't just go over to Japan and claim that, oh, I'm Japanese now. Actual Japanese people would laugh at me, and then they would politely tell me, get out. I certainly can't go to China and make that sort of claim. They might actually put me in stocks for that. And that's after they pick themselves up off the floor from laughing at me so hard. I can't go to Russia and make that claim. Or to Brazil. Claim I'm Brazilian. No, certainly not. The best I can hope to be is an honored guest of sorts in their respective countries. That's really all I'll ever be, because I am not of the native stock. What's funny about what can be considered British, you know which people they never glaze and mention? Gurkhas, because they're decent people who can and do behave here. Yeah, there are some groups that absolutely can and do behave rather well. Not sure they can ever be considered English or Scottish, because there's still a certain sense of ethnic identity to that. It's something that's in the blood. Now, there are certain immigrant groups, they go certain places and they do fairly well for themselves. But there's still a distinct difference, something that differentiates them from the native population. And we, as people and societies, have got to learn to get more comfortable with this, because otherwise we will dilute and cheapen our unique identities so much to where they don't have any sort of meaning. And without that identity, we just become cogs in some massive globalist machine, easily manipulated, easily interchangeable. We become nothing more than tools of the ruling class. Yes, of course, just saying how this Labour definition of what is British is never people who can be civilized. It's always people who can't and never will. That's why other Europeans aren't saved. You
know, I'll do a thing in more depth about the philosophy that Shabana Mahmood and the Labour Party more broadly is putting across here. Because it is bonkers. It is absolutely bonkers to suggest that all people in all of the world can just say, I'm English, and we have to accept that it is so. What prevents them from just doing that in their own countries, Keir? Why can't they just say, you know what? We may be standing in Hyderabad or something, but I'm English. Good point, chaps. I'm English too. All of India could declare themselves to be English. And what are we, reconstructing the British Empire then? Are we going to be like, oh yeah, that's an English territory now? That's an Anglo country now? No, it obviously doesn't work that way. And just because someone was born in England does not make them English. And it's not like anything other than a statement of fact to say that. Because fundamentally, this country is named after the people. It is not sufficient to be born in England to be English, any more than it means that if you are born in the stable, you are a horse. To be English, you have to have at least some English parentage. One of your parents has to have been English. It is an ethnicity. It is passed down. And this doesn't make anyone bad. It doesn't mean that death squads need to march down the streets.
I'm so woke, we say weakness.
That the British Defence League is suddenly going to kick down doors and club people for being non-English.
I suppose that's all entirely out of the question. No, I'm kidding.
What it means is we accept the tacit implication of all of this is that actually the English have the primary claim to England. And if they have had enough,
yes,
if they feel
simple
they've
as
given up enough of their country to foreigners who, remember, have no claim whatsoever to this country. They are here at our grace. That no one from anywhere else in the world can say, I deserve to live in England. I have a right to live in England. No, only the English can say that. Even the Irish don't have a right to live here, Keir. Right? No one other than the English has the moral claim to England. And if they're here, and many of them are, and many of them are here, and they're not a problem. And if they're here, they are because we allowed it. Well, actually, in reality, it's because it was enforced upon us, wasn't it, Keir? But the point being, you cannot just declare war on us for being against your UK. And if you want to set up Nigel Farage as...
It is a war that, in the long run, he's going to lose. Because the response, backlash, it has the potential to just spoil over to the point of civil war. I mean, we were talking earlier about civil war. The UK is on the verge of just such a civil war. I firmly believe that. And it has been driven, petrol has been poured on the fire by the current ruling government. And it really is becoming a situation where civil unrest is just becoming a stronger and stronger possibility the longer this Labour government remains in power. The UK press will try to gaslight you and say, oh no, it's not that bad. It's just, a bunch of extreme right-wing rabble-rousers that don't represent the majority of the population. Nothing could be further from the truth. People are fed up. They're fed up with their neighborhoods being unsafe, with their children not being able to walk to school, for risk of being snatched up and assaulted and raped and even murdered by gangs of African and Middle Eastern migrants holed up in hotels somewhere, oftentimes near schools. They're just sick of it all. They're sick of the excessive regulations, the high taxes. They're sick of the lack of job opportunities. The whole country is just in what seems to be a perpetual state of decline, and those in power just want to manage the decline. It never seems to really enter their minds that Britain can be great again. The closest thing that the current ruling government has to that is fundamentally transforming Britain into something alien. They think that if they just destroy everything that makes Britain, somehow they can win. A good tyrant knows that a foreign population is always one of his greatest potential allies and forces. Yes, until that foreign population golem turns against him, which has happened in history before. See the Roman Empire for further information.
The totemic opposite of your politics. That's fine. I've got my disagreements with Nigel, but on this, if it's you or him, I'm going to choose him.
We will teach Starmer a lesson next May that British political history will never forget. I am now, as a result of this week and the abuse that has been heaped upon our supporters and our voters, more determined than ever. Don't underestimate that.
And in fact, I think it becomes imperative that Nigel Farage crushes you. You are not allowed to approach the British people with this kind of attitude. Do you understand me, Keir? You are not allowed to openly declare for the foreigners against us and expect to have any grace from us, to expect to have any sympathy, expect to ever get elected again, right? Nigel Farage, God willing, is going to crush you. I'm going to do everything I can to support Nigel.
It certainly seems that that's the way things are heading. Poll after poll after poll is coming out saying if the election were held today or tomorrow, Reform would just sweep away any majority that Labour or even the Tories could possibly have. And the longer this drags on, barring any sort of unforced error, I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that Reform could form a supermajority in Parliament. I think we can't rule that out. Now, will that mean sweeping radical changes? I don't know. So many of the people that Reform is running in these next elections, they're all mostly defectors from the Conservatives and even from Labour. And call me cynical, but it just seems like they're putting lipstick on a pig at that point. It's still a pig. So who knows if we would actually get the necessary reforms for Reform to be true to their name, rather than just more of the same from the Labour Conservative Uniparty. One good thing I'm seeing from this is that Britain First is getting off its feet again, and is about, 10% of the size of Reform now? Yes. I think I have more faith in Britain First to actually grow and actually get things done, mainly because you've got good men like Rupert Lowe leading the charge. I would not mind seeing a coalition government of Reform and Britain First, but knowing Nigel Farage, he will probably try to sabotage them and sideline them and do everything he can to absolutely kneecap them, because he's not capable of shedding the limelight. And should Reform win handily in the next election, and at this point we should probably just say when they win the next election, the cabinet that Nigel forms when he forms a government, they're all going to have to go in, and they are going to have to make damn sure that he gets all of the limelight, that all credit goes to him, because there's only room for one ego at number 10, and it's Nigel's. They are going to have to be comfortable working in the shadows and not getting any of the credit. They do all the work, Nigel takes all the bows, because that's the only way they will survive as members of his cabinet. If there's one thing Nigel cannot stand, it's other people's light shining brighter than his. It's what happened with Rupert Lowe. Rupert was his star was starting to shine brighter than Nigel's, and Nigel did not like that. And so Nigel kicked him out of Reform and tried to drag his name through the mud. That's another thing that Britain First is going to have to understand, is if you want a coalition government with Reform, all credit, all the bows, all the accolades go to Nigel and Nigel alone. And that's going to be hard for a lot of politicians, because politicians being politicians, they have egos, they have their pride, and it is just a matter of time before someone will find the press coverage or the accolades to be a bit too intoxicating to where they want to shine just a little bit brighter than Nigel. And that's when the long knives will be out for them. Namely, from Nigel and his gang. As I said, there's room for only one ego at number 10 and in the House of Commons. And that ego belongs to Nigel Farage. So anyone who can learn to operate in that sort of political reality will go far. Anyone trying to operate outside of that political reality will very quickly find themselves facing the long knives. It's also one of Nigel Farage's greatest weaknesses, and one of the ways his enemies will try to isolate him, render him impotent, and ultimately cause the collapse of any government he tries to form. Jonathan Bowden was right. If no party is suited for you and your people, form your own. No use infiltrating hell as an angel. Very true. Difficult, not impossible. Actually, I think the only place that's really impossible these days is America. There's room for only two parties in America, and that's the Democrats and the Republicans. At least now, in the current climate in Britain, we have an opportunity to overturn the old Tory Labour paradigm.
Crushing you, because you declared the battle lines. You declared it. You said, you know what? And Nigel Farage was so kind to you as well. He was like, well, I disagree with Keir Starmer, but he seems like a very nice guy. And you've just come out and called him the enemy. All of his supporters, the enemy. You do not get to speak to us this way. That is not how this works. You do not get to side with the foreigners. You do not get to tell us that we are bad people for wanting the country that we grew up in for our own children. You do not get to do this. And I realise that the penny hasn't dropped yet, that you haven't actually arrived at a point where you realise, oh, I fucked it. But that day is rapidly arriving. Trust me, in May, you're going to get what you deserve. People are going to remember exactly how you've treated them. And everyone hates you anyway. You're the most hated Prime Minister that has ever been. And Nigel Farage, amongst young people, is the most popular candidate going. The elections next year are going to be Reforms to lose. Barring any unforced errors, they're going to win. He is as popular as Jeremy Clarkson, okay? He is as popular as mainstream celebrities.
Let's see, Farage, Burnham and Trump lead the way among teens today. Wouldn't be the first time a new party was overturned the dual party in Britain. Both Liberals and Labour did that. I think Gladstone. Positively or negatively. I think the red is supposed to be negative, blue is supposed to be positive, and grey is neutral and no opinion. 38% approval for Nigel versus 25 for Keir Starmer, 23 for Jeremy Corbyn, and an absolutely pathetic 16% for Kemi Badenoch. 39% approval rating for Jeremy Clarkson, 28% for Elon Musk. Quite polarizing, these results for Nigel. 38% versus 36%. You either love him or you hate him. Raven, welcome in. Just popping in to say goodnight before heading to bed. Well, thank you for popping in. It's good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Yes, forming your own parties isn't impossible. Labour was literally formed out of irrelevant trade unions in 1906. Yes, I remember the history just so, to oppose the sort of mass immigration that they are now, ironically enough, welcoming in with open arms. My, how times have changed.
And you are hated by everyone other than the closed borders room that you are in, with an absolute echo chamber of people from the previous paradigm who have screwed up this country. And everyone is pointing out, going, look, it's what you support, what you are offering more of, that has done the damage to us. And all you can do is come out and declare for the opposition, the foreign. And all you can say is, well, this was how it was meant to be. Don't you understand? You don't love the UK like we do. It's like, no, I don't. Look at the fucking state of it.
Yes. Unlike them, we actually do genuinely love the UK. Rather than aping the words love but wanting to turn it into something completely unrecognizable. Good to see you too, sir. Night-night. Good night, Raven. Sleep well. Oh, chat, I do have to apologize for the long pauses between my sentences. It's a combination of trying to think of what I want to say, but also I'm trying to get over a cold. So having to stay hydrated with copious amounts of bottled water. I'm trying to mute before I start hacking and coughing. So apologies for all that thus far, as also for what's to come.
I don't love this. I love what it used to be before you and your Blairite friends got your hands on it. It used to be magical. And I realize that there are a bunch of Zoomers going, what are you talking about? What do you mean? I really mean this.
Yeah, no. Before Tony Blair came in, Britain was in good shape. Even in the 90s, we were still riding high from all the reforms and the great, wave of progress with Thatcher. It's hard to imagine now, but yeah, those were good times. The 80s and even the 90s, they were good to Britain. They were good to a lot of places in the West. I was just watching earlier today when I was eating lunch, one of the made-for-TV movies of The Saint with Simon Dutton as Simon Templar. And gosh, you look at that. These were filmed in the late 80s and the early 90s. Everything looks so different. And these were genuine international productions too. I mean, they filmed not just in England, but they also filmed in France. I think they may have had a few shots done in Luxembourg. There was at least one movie they filmed in Australia. These were times when you look at it and you watch them, and it just looks so different compared to today. Everything just, even back then, looked so much cleaner and brighter and more prosperous. I mean, times were genuinely good. Not just in the UK, all over Europe and in Australia. And it really says something that they were able to pull off these very, genuinely international film productions and take you to faraway places and even show you life in what was then modern-day Britain. And man, it was good. It really made you long for something that for a lot of younger people, they have no living memory of. For me, I was just a little kid back then. And man, you miss it. You long for a time that no longer exists. And that just fills me with melancholy and then sadness. Here's a good joke my dad told me. Akira always says his dad was a till maker. You say nowadays, yeah, actually, that's great. Looking for one after my kit got stolen by migrants. True and real. True and real. Ruby, welcome in. Spooky season has started. Yes, it is the 1st of October.
Britain, all of it was genuinely magical. It was like a place out of a fairy tale, and we didn't even realize what we had.
He's right.
We didn't realize how good it was until they took it away from us. And now, my children will never see the country I saw when I was growing up. And it breaks my heart. And if all you can do, Kit, is say, you know what? I'm going to make sure there are millions of Pakistanis here. I'm going to make sure there are millions of Africans here. I'm going to make sure there are millions of Asians here. I'm going to make sure there are millions of foreigners here. And you're going to treat every single one of them as if they were from 9000 BC, hanging out with Cheddar Man back in the day. I'm not having it, Kia. There are millions of people in this country who shouldn't be here. And you could easily siphon these off and go, well, look, Boris let in a bunch of people who are just a drain on the state. Don't know why he did it. And those people should probably go home.
Well, we know why he did it. He wanted the Financial Times to like him again. Because apparently the approval of the Financial Times is more important than doing what's good for the people of Britain. Totally not plotting anything. He's totally plotting something, chat. Be on your guard.
We don't need indefinite leave to remain for them because they're not here legitimately. They're here against the will of the British people through the betrayal of a Conservative Prime Minister. You could easily win all of this back, but you won't, because you are deeply ideological. You're a blockhead, frankly, and you've got no dexterity. And
Blockhead's
you're not
putting
able
it
to
mildly.
But that's fine. That's good. You're going to get crushed. I want you to get crushed. I want the two old parties, the two traitorous parties, Labour and the Tories, to be absolutely annihilated. And if Nigel Farage is the man to do that, then Godspeed, Nigel Farage. I hope you manage it.
Yeah, I mean, You heard my criticisms of Nigel. He doesn't know how to share the spotlight. He doesn't know how to share power. If he can work around that, great. And if he can fend off attempts to use that against him, he may stand a chance. But right now, there's two men that I would trust with Britain's future. And that's Nigel Farage and Rupert Lowe. Nigel and Rupert are our men. They are the men to do the job. And so now it's up to us to give them all the support that they need to pull off a victory. Best jump scare for Gen Z this Halloween. Boo! Job application. Job application? What sort of jobs? There's no jobs waiting for them. And even if there is a job application, is this going to be automatically rejected by some AI or applicant tracking system? The entire hiring system is just completely and totally broken.
Fundamentally, Keir, if it's war you want, it is war you will get. We have nowhere else to go. All of your foreign charges all have countries of their own. When the heat gets too high and they realize, okay, actually the British public are never going to vote for us again. In fact, they're going to take away our benefits. In fact, they're going to render us marginal as we ought to be. They'll leave. And you'll be left without all of your friends and neighbours. And we will finally have a country that works for us. They have options, Keir. We do not have options. We are in this for the long haul. We have nowhere to go. This is the last England that we have, and by God, we are going to keep it.
And God willing, we will keep it. Anyways, posting link there in chat for everyone, in case you want to check that out for yourself. Let's see. I'm going to save some of these for tomorrow. Actually, you know what? Hopefully Leaflet is still hanging out there and vibing in chat. I want to do a react to a couple of her videos. Oh, by God, we'll have our home again. By blood or sweat, we'll get there yet. By God, we'll have our home. Amen. Well said. Yes, in the wake of Charlie Kirk and the shooting at an ICE facility in Dallas and the attack on a Mormon church, I believe it was in Michigan, or was it Minnesota? Somewhere in the Midwest. You have people on the left trotting out some so-called studies claiming that the right are the violent ones. Well, they only work because they fudge the numbers. They did the whole lies, damn lies, and statistics, lumping in certain incidents on the right that were actually supposed to be mentions of left-wing violence. In other words, the people doing studies on political violence, they cheated. They fudged the numbers. They basically are trying to gaslight everyone into thinking that, oh, it's only right-wingers that are violent, when really, no, it's more the left who's the violent ones. Anyways, let's take a look at this from Leaflet. This was, looks like this one from her subathon that she did. Let's give it a play. 3, 2, 1, go.
Debunking bad studies on political violence. Okay, this is a good one because you hear this all the time. I'm sure you guys have all heard. Did you hear that? Right? That all of the political violence, like a majority of political violence is caused by the right wing. You hear this all the time. So this is probably going to be about that. So it's going to be great. All right, here we go.
Reacting to a Mentis Wave video. I replied to your going live post with a fun sort of thing, lol, on X. Oh. Okay, well, let's have a look here. I like the going live picture, so I messed around with it a bit and sort of too. Oh, hang on. Let's back this up. Does this have audio? Let's pause the music here. Oh, this goes hard. Oh, I love it. I love this. It's like I got my own anime. Oh, I love this. Leaflet, thank you so much for this. God bless you. This is wonderful. Oh. Yeah, you know what? We gotta quote tweet this one. We gotta show this off. Let's see. Absolutely chuffed to bits by this. I'm deeply humbled and flattered. God bless you, Leaflet. And thank you so much. And we will add nice little blue heart there. This is our signature around here. And posting. I can show you how to do it later if you want. I would love that. Be absolutely honored. I think what you're doing with this is absolute magic. Make entire openings just takes a lot of editing. Thankfully, I'm getting a bit better with the editing. Nowhere near an expert like you. I've got my own editor who really carries quite a load for me on that. So that's. But yes, this is wonderful. Not the best fundamentalist wave. He's great for taking dumps on dumb neo-Marxists, etc. But arguing against any old third-way theories such as corporatism, he just says, nah, fam. No one's perfect, but he has his strengths at least. Yes, but that is wonderful, Leaflet. Thank you so much for that. Right. Let's see. As they, egalitarians, see it, liberty and equality are mutually compatible, but it is clear from cases pitting free speech against equal protection under the civil rights regime that this is not true.
Hey, internets. So,
Hey.
in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's unfortunate assassination, the discussion has now shifted to a few different talking points as people kind of are still stuck processing just what happened and what it means. And the talking points I'm seeing are, first off, this additional bizarre set of arguments that are trying to claim that Tyler Robinson was some far-right groiper. The second I'm seeing is this extremely bad data cherry-picking combined with studies that utilize nonsense methodology.
Yes, there's a good term for it. Cherry picking. That's exactly what they're doing.
Used to claim that political violence solely comes from the right,
Yup.
with a few also claiming that
They
it
said,
solely
like, it
comes
was-
from the left. And lastly,
They said it was like freaking 80% or some shit, like 85 or something.
the third
Yeah, that's
discussion has kind
bullshit.
of shifted to being about free speech and this state of hypocrisy where Republicans and Democrats will pretend to support free speech on principle, but they don't actually believe it on principle. They only believe it when they are not the dominant political party, and then they suddenly stop believing about it and forget about it once they are in power again. So very cringe indeed.
Yep.
Now, originally I was going to go over
Probably one of the easiest tells with that is the willingness to even entertain on a national level or try to sort of throw up a flare about the banning of violent video games. That whole conversation that we thought had died out in the 90s, and yet here we have people talking about it once again, or even the Attorney General talking about the need to go after hate speech in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination, which, I mean, that alone, everyone very quickly corrected her on that and said no, even Charlie Kirk would be against that.
some of these topics as separate videos this month, but then my illness kind of flared up, and that's why it's been longer than usual since I posted a new video.
Huh.
But on the bright side,
Spot
as I
on.
was stuck just lying around with
The third part is kind of interesting. That is kind of true. That wasn't there a thing with who was that? Was that Pam? Pam
Yes,
Bondi
Pam
was
Bon-
being
Pam
like
Bondi.
very anti-free speech.
with nothing to do but thinking, I realized that all three of these subjects are much more strongly interconnected than most people realize, and actually would be better off as a single video going over the general problem of
Yeah, she's kinda
motivated
cringe.
reasoning that these talking points
She made a big boo-boo, that's putting it mildly. Fire Pam Bondi, by the way. Yes. It's proven to be such a terrible disappointment.
all share. But first of all, this video is sponsored by Private Internet Access.
Sponsor
In a digital
time!
age, everyone needs security and privacy. Even if you think you are doing nothing wrong, that will not stop bad actors from stealing your data and using it to take advantage of you. This is why having a VPN is a necessity. Whether it's from hackers, the surveillance state, or copyright trolls or whoever, private internet access keeps your data safe by using
That's a good
no-log
top
servers
tip,
with
chat.
state-of-the-art encryption,
Get
so that
yourself a
outside observers
VPN.
can no longer spy on
If you don't have
The
one
ROM's also
already,
extremely
get
easy
one.
to use, and they have an excellent selection of high-speed servers to choose from, which means that in addition to being great for security, this also makes it an excellent VPN for streaming services. Whether you're using Amazon Prime,
Go
Netflix,
use this
HBO
one
Max, Hulu,
or
or whatever, these services
use
have
my
the
link and go get
irritating habit of
NordVPN.
superficially limiting your choices of what
Whatever
you
works
can
for you
watch
and your
based on
budget.
your country. And by using private internet access, you can use their app to change your IP, which enables you to then watch those things that are available in different countries. Or at the very least, it's a heck of a lot less expensive than flying to them or really any of the alternatives. Because another awesome thing about
To
them
me,
is
free
that private
speech is
internet
just
access
selective
is
tribalism. Who will weaponize it and who will take it lying down?
Description below, you can get it for
Yes, that really
83%
is
off
the
at only
reality of things, isn't
$2.03 per
it?
month, and with 4 months free, covered with a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee. Anyways, let's start out with the first of these, which is additional silly claims that Tyler Robinson was somehow a rightoid or some kind of groiper who was trying to...
Yeah, Tyler Robinson being the man who is accused of shooting and killing Charlie Kirk. But let's face it, we all know he did it.
Paul claims that Tyler Robinson was somehow a rightoid.
Hang on, what? Six-pointed star spotted.
Or some kind of groiper who was trying to pull off some kind of false flag operation. And this one is, of course, by far the easiest of the three to refute. But you will want to pay very close attention to some of the backwards reasoning
World
that some
government.
of the people use to try and claim that he was a rightoid when we get to the bad faith data analysis. Because, spoiler alert, there are some similarities. But other than that, this one's pretty straightforward.
Quick, someone activate the tinfoil hat redeem.
Journalists from Vox admit that it is very, very
It's a joke.
unlikely that Tyler Robinson is a rightoid. Because since my last video, a lot
Comforting
more
fiction,
information has
that's
come
all
to
it
light,
is.
And with that information comes a lot more bad takes. Which does also come with the temptation to just kind of ignore it and just, again, say that, hey, any reasonable adult can just denounce
bad
political
brain
violence
dead
from all
takes.
sides. Again, it is not hard at all if you have a consistent moral philosophy to
Yep.
say, hey, murdering someone for something that they said is a very wrong thing to do, whether it's coming from the left or the right, and just leave it at that. However, I'm going to refute this anyway because I've noticed that
We no longer live in a world where a sufficient number of people believe that. We now live in a world where at least a third of Americans, and probably a good chunk of the Western world, at least a third of the Western world believes, or maybe even more, that it is okay not just to jail your opponents for saying things you disagree with, but it is also acceptable to murder them. That is what they believe, and it is borne out in at least one survey out there. But I can't tell you how many sort of man-on-the-street videos I've seen or listened to where they go around to... I mean, there was one I was watching where you had a man-on-the-street segment. They went to, I think it was Harvard University, and they asked students there about the murder of Charlie Kirk. And they asked them, did they deserve it? And a disturbing number of them said, yeah, he had it coming. If for no other reason than he said quote-unquote hateful things that those particular students happened to disagree with. Naturally, of course, we're meant to believe that the guy who shot Charlie is some groiper decked out in black suns, Tylenol consumed. Yes, I'd love for us to believe that, but even a cursory analysis shows that it's just not true. And I'm sorry, but if you believe that, you are genuinely an idiot. Tyler Robinson had a long history of being a Reddit tier shitlib ever since he was in, like, middle school or high school. This was confirmed by family members, by classmates, and it was only when he started going to university he became even more radicalized. It was only when he started going down the whole trans rabbit hole that this sort of radicalization, that he became even more radicalized, and, I mean, certainly didn't help. He had at least, what was it, what are we now up to, 1, 2 trans lovers? His most recent one, of which he confessed the crime to.
this attempt to paint Tyler Robinson as right-wing is really just an attempt by the far left to downplay the issue and pretend like it doesn't matter, which aside from just being obviously intellectually dishonest is also very irresponsible. And you may wonder, how successful have they been at convincing people that Tyler Robinson was a rightoid? Well, if you look at this YouGov survey, apparently they've been actually quite successful, at least from September 12th to 15th. Maybe people have gained a bit more of a head on their shoulders on this, but it
Americans see left-wing beliefs behind Charlie Kirk's shooting than see right-wing beliefs.
really does show just how well the propaganda wagon has worked, with only 32% of independents recognizing that the ideology behind Tyler Robinson was left-wing beliefs. Again, that's independents, which means that the poor normies have once again been successfully gaslit, because all of these attempts to paint Tyler Robinson as right-wing are based on this one type of flawed reasoning, which is thinking that all evidence is equal. Thinking that you can just tally up things of, oh, this is a thing that Tyler Robinson did that suggests right-leaning beliefs, and oh, this is a thing that Tyler Robinson did that suggests left-leaning beliefs, and if we can just find more things to tally up that say that he had right-wing beliefs, then that makes him a right-winger. Well, no, because the quality of these things matters a lot more.
Called flooding the zone.
There is such a thing as weak evidence and strong evidence.
Peter Hunter says, I denounce political violence unless it's really fun.
For a certain position. So, for example, one bad...
I swear one of these people's arguments will be, he was 14 once, that meant he believed in the 14 words. We laugh now. Someone is going to try that. Some idiot is going to make that argument. It is tragically comical.
I've seen is that some Redditoids have tried to claim that, oh, he was a Groyper because Groypers might partake in a false flag operation, or a Groyper might do the strategy of acceleration. And of course, from that reasoning, they then argue that Tyler Robinson must be an accelerationist. And well, no, that's not actually correct. Simply proving that a possibility exists doesn't mean you've proven the thing that you're claiming to be true. And this is just honestly kind of basic reasoning, basic Occam's razor here. You have to also consider how likely that probability is. And one simple way to see that that probability is very low is just realizing that based on this reasoning, everyone could be claimed to be a Groyper. It's a completely unfalsifiable claim. Like,
well, in that case, when I'm 88 years old, oh no. Careful, Icarus.
for example, is it possible that Vladimir Putin is an alien? Well, technically,
Yeah,
yes, it is, but
technically.
only because it's almost completely impossible to completely rule that out. The actual
If he were to attempt to, I mean, he is technically an alien to everywhere except Russia. If he were to enter another country illegally, that would make him an illegal alien.
chances that he's an alien are very, very, very comically low. It's
But
just
it
a
could
Vladimir
cop your
Putin, the
random
lizard
falsifiable
man.
claim. Because you can't prove that he isn't an alien doesn't mean that he is an alien. Same problem here, just because we can't prove that he isn't a Groyper trying to pull a false flag for accelerationist reasons.
But see, he could be like 1,000 different kinds of aliens. So that's 1,000 possibilities versus one possibility of him being human.
And 1,000
There's
is
only
greater than one.
Possibility that he's human. 1,000 that he's an alien. So he must be an alien. Anunnaki confirmed. That's right, guys. Buy Super Beats.
You heard it. You heard it here. You heard it here, chat. Vladimir Putin is an extraterrestrial. Yon Lee, welcome in. Thank you for redeeming Not First. And for the MGM Lion Roar. And for the quack. I don't think I have quite the range today to imitate the quack. Otherwise, I would quack back. Still recovering from a cold, chat, but I am on the mend. Certainly feeling better today than I was yesterday. I was very low energy, hence why I did not stream. Holy shit, didn't know Putin was from the Tao Empire. Yes, he came to rule over Russia because he came from the one place that was not corrupted by decadent capitalism. Nice. Rest is priority, okay, alright.
Buy Super Beats, guys, buy them!
Buy super beats or we'll put chemicals in the water that turn the freaking frogs gay.
That doesn't
Creatine! Testosterone!
prove that he is.
Muscle milk, whey protein, power bar.
That's not how the burden of proof works. That's not how honest reasoning works. That's just silly straw grasping. And of course, the time frame matters a lot more. For example, one of the things I covered in my previous video was the cope of, oh, he dressed up as Donald Trump back when he was a kid, therefore he must be a conservative, in contrast with evidence of him being
He was
left-wing,
not.
such as left-wing.
Also, isn't he... Hold on. Here's the thing I don't get. Everyone keeps saying this, that he was dressed up as Donald Trump. But isn't this him dressed up as him riding on Donald Trump like he's a donkey? Yeah, like, what?
Slogans being written on his ammo during the time of the
I don't
shooting.
think anyone that respects Trump would wear that as a costume.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And of course, the obvious issue with
Jazz.
trying
Thank you
to
so
look
much
at
for the
those
sub.
as
Thank you.
equal pieces
But
of
again, this is... We're not dealing with honest brokers of information. I mean, I have practically beaten a dead horse with the constant trotting out of the line from Freeran, but to them, words are just another means to deceive humans.
evidence is they are completely ignoring the time element, because what Tyler Robinson believed at the time of the shooting probably had a lot more influence on what his motive for the shooting was than what he believed when he was a kid. And that's just kind of an obvious
The crazy thing is, guys, is like, man, that guy was not even in college that long.
It did not take them... It did not take the Ivory Tower types very long to completely and totally pause him. It never does.
qualitative
Like parents really need to watch their kids. Holy fuck, dude.
factor that I'm
Yes.
seeing a lot of this.
Parents really need to be mindful if you are going to send your child to a university. If they still exist in any form or fashion, don't send them to some sort of cesspool, like wherever Tyler Robinson went to school. Don't send them to some sort of leftist cesspool. I mean, I understand that eliminates probably a good 95 to 99% of universities out there. Well, there's maybe one of those times where helicopter parenting might actually do some good. You know, constantly being up in their business and just constantly asking, what the fuck are you learning in these classes, if anything? Recent study finds homeschooled children miss out on opportunity to be a gay communist. True and real. True and real. Yeah, that's another thing. If you can at all, if you can help it at all, don't send your child to a public school. They're not really going to learn anything. And if anything, they'll come out even dumber than they were before. Just homeschool them. Or put them in some sort of private academy you can trust. Depending on your budget, of course. I know that can be quite expensive for a lot of people. But the one argument I don't think that people can make is that, oh my gosh, it's so expensive to homeschool a child. No. If anything, it's the most economical model. You'd be amazed how much waste, fraud, and abuse goes on in public school environments, even to some extent in private schools. It is far, far cheaper than you might think to homeschool a child. And I dare say that parents can do it more efficiently over the course of a few hours a day versus the, I don't know how many hours they keep children locked up in public schools these days. I mean, honestly, they keep these children in for all hours of the day, and most of the time it's just to act as daycare, just a holding pin. I'm not actually teaching them anything. I mean, do you really need 8 hours to teach a child the basics of reading, writing, and maths? I would dare say you can probably get that done in 3, maybe 4 hours, which is good because children don't exactly have long attention spans. And then just, put them in the outdoors and say, go play. I mean, it really is easier than a lot of us think to educate a child. You don't need advanced degrees in credentialism to do it. Parents teaching children, and even siblings to a certain extent teaching children, was the way our ancestors did it for centuries. Anyway, let's keep going.
This midwittery just kind of deliberately ignore. Just the obvious difference in quality of evidence and weight of evidence. Like, for example, if you're going to the grocery store, your incentive behind what you're going to buy at the grocery store is probably more influenced on the grocery store list that you wrote roughly 3 hours before going to the grocery store than it is influenced by whatever video game you decided to play back 7 years ago or so on some random rainy night.
I remember though.
I don't know. I've played my fair share of Game Boy titles. Some people can play a Game Boy game and think it's just a simple monochromatic video game. Others can input the Konami code and unlock the mysteries of the universe. Looking back, anti-academia school sun cultures, though I hated that laddishness, were right. We should be building muscle and doing more physical things in school, even things like chopping wood. Yes, absolutely. Children need a balance of not just learning in the classic academic sense, but also learning through physical labor and learning through play. I think if you were to split that up into thirds, we would have children being reared, being much more properly balanced individuals than whatever the hell it is we're doing to our children these days.
Where you weren't even thinking about groceries. It's actually kind of weird to me that I need to point this obvious fact out. It is a very...
Had Wario, was it Super Wario World or something on it?
Very well-known fact of psychology that a person's actions are more motivated by their thoughts at the time of the action than being motivated by what...
My games of choice were... Let's see, there was that one Godzilla title on Game Boy. Of course I had Pokemon. You know what was also really good? There was one Zelda title on the Game Boy, Link to the Past. I rather liked that one. I think I got the upgraded treatment on the Super Famicom later on. I don't know. I should really like to play that again.
Whatever their thoughts were at some random, arbitrarily chosen point in time in the past, 5 to 10 years ago or whatever. So, same problem, they're making no attempt whatsoever to discern strong evidence from weak evidence. When it comes to a qualitative factor like incentives and human action, evidence regarding what their beliefs and incentives were at the time of the action is...
Honestly, I'm gonna lean into that one day. No, it was like... Super Wario World. I need to lean into that one day, and like my entire stream is just gonna be like a old lady giving advice to kids, like a grandma replacement, you know, like for people that like they're not like close to their family, or they need like grandma advice. Yeah, it's gonna be like my stream like in like 20 years.
Multiple orders of magnitude stronger
20
evidence
years? My dear lady, that's not for at least a good, I don't know, 40 or 50 years. You've got a long way to go, my dear. Oldest game I've ever played is 2001 Call of Duty, still better than Veilguard. Yes, a lot of games from the 2000s are far superior than any of the slop they're putting out today. Oldest game I ever played? Super Mario Bros. For the Famicom. Oldest game I ever played for a system I actually owned? Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Mega Drive. That is dating me. Leaflet's mentally preparing for Hag Maxine, let her be. She's got a long way to go before she gets into Hag territory. Greetings, my lord. Welcome in, Mushroom.
Whatever their motivation was behind that action, than some random crap that they were thinking about one afternoon back when they were in junior high school or whatever.
Did you guys hear that that's actually a thing in Japan? Did you guys hear about that?
What?
That's a real thing happening in Japan right now, where you can rent a grandma to be a VTuber for you.
Oh yes, yeah, they do have VTubers that are grannies, and they are streaming, and yeah, they do a lot of just chatting streams and give out advice to young people. It's a bit jarring because I think they've opted for like mostly kind of the pre-built avatars, and a lot of those are more youthfully coded, we'll say. Yeah, we need some VTuber artists out there that can draw and rig for the Japanese grannies a proper Japanese granny VTuber model.
So you pay money, a grandma controls a VTuber avatar, and a grandma gives you grandma advice. Yeah. Like, as in, like, they'll give you advice and tell you, like, whatever life advice you want.
And it's probably wiser counsel than anything you'll find anywhere else. Yikes, if 60% of Japan's population being elderly wasn't enough. I need a proper Hagtuber rig. All I can say is start doing a search on VGen. I don't know. You could probably reach out to my artisan rigger, Nothis Art. I don't know if he's actually done anything like that before. Let us know if you're looking for something that's, you know, quality on the level of agency VTuber, you know, your Hololives and Niji Sanjis. Nothis is your man. Good price. He'll draw and rig it for you. And, I mean, just does a stellar job. I mean, just look at me. He got the devilishly handsome part just absolutely down pat. Reminds me of that cosplayer pirate from Hololive, proper hag that gives proper elderly advice. I mean, it's a thing these days. You've got a lot of young people that feel a bit lost. They need to be able to turn to someone. It's a pity so many of them don't have like a proper father figure that they can turn to for that sort of advice. A good grandma leaves you a beast after you leave from a visit from her cooking. Oh yes, you will never go away hungry when you go to Grand's house. You will be properly fed.
That's a real thing happening in Japan right now, where you can rent a grandma to be a VTuber for you. Like, so you pay money, a grandma controls a VTuber avatar, and the grandma gives you grandma advice. Yeah. Like, as in, like, they'll give you advice and tell you, like, whatever life advice you want.
That's good
Yeah,
advice.
it's like rent a girlfriend.
Listen
just
to your
rent a
gran.
grandma. Yeah.
Rent a granny.
That's wholesome and sad. Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
but a bit melancholy, isn't
thinking
it?
about it, like, is that really a bad thing for society? I don't really know if that's a bad thing. Because I feel like a lot of people can probably use that.
I mean, it's better than having nobody to turn to for advice like that. It's better than having no one from an older generation that you can turn to. I do miss Grandma's baked goods. Hell yeah, I love my granny's Yorkshire puddings, a toad in the hole. Oof. God, I miss proper English cooking. Something I haven't had in ages. I really miss it. It's just a good proper serving of beans on toast. Or just like a really hot, fresh shepherd's pie. A plate of bangers and mash. Last time I had anything good like that was coming up on a year ago when I was back in Britain, in the hotels I was staying at. Every morning, full English breakfast. No ifs, ands, buts about it. God, I miss it. You will be fed millions of mince pies and you will like it. Yes, I will. That is not a hard sell with me. Mince pies, especially around Christmas time. Absolute must. It is not really Christmas till you had your mince pie.
Especially, like, nowadays with a lot of people who... I don't know. People could use wisdom, you know?
Yes,
so it's
they
very
really
irrational
could.
to try and present something like that as some kind of counter-evidence. It's not. It's very stupid. And then the same silly reasoning is put into the whole
Shows how fucked up the family structure is. It does. It really does, yeah.
whole claim of, oh, look, he seems to have liked guns, therefore he was a right-winger. For example, I still see some people using Adam Cochran's debunked posts where he says, oh, he used to go shooting and hunting and fishing with his father, therefore...
Yes, apparently these people have never heard of the John Brown Gun Club, which is a group of extreme left-wing gun nuts who are trained in the use of firearms, except they are training in the use of firearms to commit acts of violence against anyone who dares to disagree with them. Made myself hungry now. It's 1:30 in the morning. Oh no! Where's a good 24-hour fish and chip shop when you need one? Oh yeah, that's right. They all got turned into cell phone repair shops and Turkish barbers. Oops.
he's a right-winger, which of course is ridiculous. I mean, first of all, it's not even a partisan thing. You can go hunting, shooting, fishing, or whatever, and still be either politically neutral, or you can even be left-wing and do those things. That's not necessarily a political activity. I mean, sure, on average, the people who...
Trust me, I've been a while since I've been in an outdoors environment, but those places are frequented by others who happen to be abject communists. Big and mega chippy. That group sounds like a proper arm of dictatorship. Yes, they are. They are basically gay race communist gun nuts who want to forcibly institute a dictatorship of the proletariat.
Who tend to enjoy doing those things tend to be more likely to be Republican, but the actual activity itself is apolitical. And of course, it also just commits the error in reasoning I just mentioned. It does not matter that he used to go hunting and fishing as a kid, because his thoughts around the time that he went hunting and fishing as a kid, that probably happened anywhere from 8 to 15 years before the actual shooting of Charlie Kirk occurred, probably were not the same thoughts that he had banging around inside his noggin at the time of him committing his crime. That's what I mean. It's just honestly a very weird argument to make. Another one I see is people have found out that his parents, Matthew Carl Robinson and Amber Denise Robinson, are registered Republicans, and then they claim that, oh, therefore he must be a Republican. It's just association.
Yes, because a lot of these leftists do have Republican parents, so it's...
Yes, Republican parents that they oftentimes get no contact with. And even they were noticing bro's gone off the deep end. Bro's become a gay race communist.
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't actually prove anything about what he believed. In fact, this seems to be the new cope in lieu of a certain thing being debunked, which is the claim that Tyler Robinson himself was a registered Republican, which was actually just proven to be outright false. And so now things are shifted to like, oh, well, his parents
It's
are,
fake
therefore
news.
he must be. Which actually proves very little. I mean, just statistics that show you political leanings by age category should show you that young people...
Don't think those guys know that John Brown actually hated equal rights and was only freeing slaves for his crime sprees. It doesn't matter to them. It's an icon that they can rally around and they can make up their own law about it and just use it for recruitment reasons. Gee, it's like families can't have different opinions. Me and my dad are right-leaning while my brother and mum are left-leaning. Yeah, it happens. And the situation is getting more polarized, at least in America, to where families, they don't want to get together for things like Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas. Because, oh my God, someone's a Trump supporter and we can't have that. It's like nothing is sacred anymore to these people. They can't even set aside the differences for just one fucking day. Or even for just one fucking hour. And just learn to get on with other people. I mean, it's really sad. But those days are gone. Exactly, sadly, my mother is a Starmer cultist, father's a lukewarm authoritarian Democrat, I'm a third-way positionist. Somewhere there's a joke in there about 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree.
Don't necessarily believe the same thing as their parents. That's just kind of an obvious thing you can point to that disproves that narrative right off the bat, but also it ignores another kind of obvious issue, which is the fact that difference in political views may have actually contributed to this attack. Because if Tyler Robinson's parents were very conservative and he was very left-leaning, then well, that would have driven a wedge between him and his family, and that would lead to resentment and loneliness and ostracization, which would of course be additional psychological factors behind why Tyler Robinson would commit such a horrible crime, which is just another basic, relatively well-known statistic. It has been shown many times that most convicted felons have—
Guys, I've been saying this for so long. The problem is dudes need a freaking mission in life. They need a mission, they need some kind of purpose. And when you don't give it to them, then they think that the Roro fight the power, and then they do terrorist shit because they think that that's the cause that they're willing to die for. You have to give dudes a something that they're willing to die for.
At the end of the day, we men are warriors. We are hunter-gatherers. Give us a sword and a shield and enemies to fight. And this hyperfeminization of the world has taken so much of that away from us and left so many of us feeling like we genuinely lack any sort of purpose or direction in life. Glad my family has no problem having dinner together. Bless you. Hang on to that mushroom. Hang on to that for dear life, because that sort of intangible is you cannot set a price on that these days. Yes, tell us about the expedition to Atlantis and we will gather. Precisely. We need adventures. We need a quest. We men are in the middle of an RPG and we need a quest to go on. We don't care if it's a main quest or a side quest, just give us a quest. The worst thing that can happen to us is we go into the guild house and there's nothing there for us. Fight to power. Vote here, by the way. Yeah, there's something to be said about that. Deny men a quest. Deny them some sort of direction in life. And again, it's like robbing them of their identity and making it to where you just turn them into cogs in the machine. It's absolutely soul-crushing. But that is the sort of thing you do if you are part of the ungodly that wants to do this to good men in this world. Now, to hell with that. I'm on my way to Agatha. On a real craft. There's a thought.
Because that's kind of what dudes want.
Have some kind of family issues going on. So TLDR, the beliefs of his family proves nothing. Another weird cope is people still fixating on the fact that he was wearing a shirt that had an American flag. I kinda already went over this one again in my previous video. Wearing an American flag doesn't actually prove anything about one's political beliefs, but I still see this cope being thrown around.
That proves nothing.
And I think people are ignoring an
It proves he's an American. Just like if I were to have a shirt on with the English flag or the Union Jack. Or even the Scottish flag. Because ethnically I am part Scottish. It means nothing except identifying me as English, Scottish, or British. Despite what the Labour Party and the Prime Minister and UK police would have you believe.
obvious counter reason, which is that what a person wears during the time that they plan to commit a crime actually proves very little. So I mean, let's just pretend that wearing an American flag does in fact imply that you must be a right-winger. Again, it does not prove that, but for the sake of argument, let's pretend, let's live in a fantasy world where it does. Okay, but during a crime doesn't.
No, I really don't want to.
When you are committing a crime, if you want to get away with that crime, which the fact that he hid from authorities for several days proves that Kyra Robinson absolutely absolutely wanted to get away with it. Well, what
You'd
you're
have to
wearing just
blend
shows
in.
what you want to wear to try and fit in. So him wearing an American flag is just a way for him to go incognito. And the fact that he was wearing a hat along with some sunglasses to, further obfuscate his identity just further proves this. It's the same reason bank robbers tend to wear a mask instead of just going in there with their face showing. I mean, just imagine trying to make this exact same argument under that context. Oh, the bank robber was wearing a gorilla mask when he was doing his bank robbery, therefore the bank robber must secretly want to be a monkey. I mean, that's just kind of the low level of intuition we're dealing with here. But anyway, the point here I'm trying to make is that all
Bank robbers want to revert to monkey? How interesting. Just wear Anglo and Nordic symbols not usually seen, they'll hurt themselves in confusion. I should love to give my enemies the proverbial blue screen of death. They almost become like the robot people in that Star Trek episode of I, Mud, contorting their heads and their necks as they overload, and then smoke comes out of their ears and they just shut down. It does sound like an amusing way to confuse the ungodly.
All of the arguments for Tyler Robinson being a right-winger are just
God, I love those numbers. They're so well designed.
trying
The numbers.
to make is
With like the little drop shadow
that
and stuff.
all of the arguments for
Those are some nice numbers.
Tyler Robinson being a right-winger are just ignoring the
This is
obvious
tickling the
issue
game
of
dev
there
portion
being
of her
such a
brain.
thing as a difference between strong evidence and weak evidence. So what we're seeing here is kind of a different form of the mid-wit nitpick fallacy, where pseudo-intellectuals think that if they can just find enough tiny problems wrong with a thing, then that disproves the thing. And well, no, that's not how reasoning works. A bunch of things that have less than 1%.
Isn't that like what Destiny did with like the fucking bullets?
Bold of Mentis to assume that you can reason with these people. You can't. There's just there is no reasoning with these people, for the simple fact that they are just filled with a primal, savage, unreasoning hatred of all of us for who we are and what we believe. Again, I repeat that common refrain, they hate us and they want us dead. God damn it, Leaflet, listen to the libertarian.
He was like, he didn't even shoot him with the catch fascist bullet. Like, bro, like...
chance of actually being true, and only because they're completely unfalsifiable.
Like,
well,
are you
all those
fucking
little
serious
pebbles do
right
not
now?
add
That's
up
like
to
your
a good
argument.
Simply pointing out how it's possible that he could
You're a liar because he didn't even shoot him with a catch fascist bullet. Like, bro.
be a groiper based on just random
The fuck outta
conjecture
here.
doesn't prove that he is. And then, of course, you have the
I don't
standard
know,
mainstream
Speaker.
media sleight of hand lies, like this one from
Anyways.
NBC. No evidence found yet of ties between Charlie Kirk's shooting and left-wing groups. Okay, well, but that's not the same thing as his motives behind the attack.
I mean, should we even be surprised? It's fucking NBC News. Of course they would write a headline so asinine. Sad thing is they've been indoctrinated that way. I have a lot of friends that were perfectly normal when I was growing up with them. Then teachers happened. Yeah, teachers aren't really teachers anymore. They're indoctrinators. That's what they do, they indoctrinate. We have a serious problem with academia, from the primary school level all the way up to the university level, of far too many teachers who are left-wing. It's not just an American problem, it is a Canadian problem, it is a UK problem, it is a Western Europe problem. Historically, academia has almost always been a cesspool of left-wing thought and indoctrination. It is one of the key points that if we are to win, we have to target academia and perform our own long march through that institution. Purge these people from academia and fill the ranks with our people. Yeah, my religion teacher in high school was a very self-hating white man. It is an epidemic. This was a Catholic school. It is, yes, it is quite epidemic throughout not just academia, but also Catholicism, and even through most of mainline Protestant Christianity. Funnily enough, I was taught to be a self-described liberal Marxist in my politics class. You were taught by a self-described liberal Marxist in my politics class who, funnily enough, voted for Brexit and against Corbyn. He thankfully, somehow, allowed disagreements. You got lucky. Most of them don't. Most of them will brook no dissent. But it is from that dissent that we can plant our own intellectual seeds. Odd fellow he was. Yes. A liberal Marxist who votes Brexit and against Corbyn. Queer fellow, but I liked him. He is a living embodiment of... I think it's safe to say he's a living embodiment of the boomerang theory of politics. The man is a literal living boomerang.
Back. Simply not having tie to a specific left-wing group does not disprove left-wing beliefs. That is not even close to being the same thing. It is, again, just another nitpick. It is just more pedantically correct. It does not matter. Which then brings us to the next subject, which is people shifting the discussion away from Tyler Robinson to a more general claim where they're using very bad data cherry-picking combined with some very bad studies
dude,
to try
I've
and
seen so many people use this.
claim that political violence solely
Even Grok believes this shit.
comes from the right. But I've
And
also...
if you look at it...
Yeah, Grok ultimately is just an aggregator, and where they aggregate their data from, it's shit. I think Grok actually gets a lot of its information from Reddit, which, I mean, that should tell you something.
For 1 second, you see ADL, you're like, oh boy, here we go again.
I've seen a few people use some cherry picking to claim that it solely comes from the left, which honestly isn't true either. But the key issue here is that on a lot of these studies, the issue with their methodology is exactly the same issue as what I just went over with in terms of understanding why Tyler Robinson was most likely a left-winger. Because all of these studies that I've looked at commit the intellectual dishonesty sin of allowing very weak evidence to be used for saying that a incident was from the right, but demanding very strong evidence in order to say that an incident came.
Guys, I have an idea. I should flip it. Guys, you think I should flip? Okay. See the notification? Should the notification be flipped? Should the Twitch notification be on the Kick side and then the Kick notification be on the Twitch side so that you guys can block each other? What do you guys think? What do you think, chat? Should I switch it? I originally had it on like the Twitch ones to be on the Twitch side, so it's like it came from Twitch. But do you think the PvP aspect is kind of funny? What do you guys think? Yeah.
Konbanwa Battle Royale, bitches.
Okay. Alright, there we go. I did it. I swapped them.
From the left. And immediately...
And just for the record, chat, I am not able to do any sort of swaps with Streamlabs. Everything, all notifications that you see get just piled into one. And the only way the only way I know who's coming from where is usually there's an icon telling me if they followed on Twitch or if they followed on YouTube. If there is no logo, then most likely it's from Kick. Just got home from work so exhausted with the amount of orders I did to deserve a raise. Yes, you actually do deserve a raise, Ruby, considering how hard you work for them. But have some fun in all the gloom. 1,200 orders, good God. Yes, give this woman a raise.
The rational temptation here is to just say that violence should be denounced from all sides. It doesn't matter who's doing it, it's bad either way. I'd like to still think that any rational, reasonable adult can just leave it at that. However, I've decided to go over these studies anyway because they're very bad, and thus they provide a very good example of why the saying goes that there are lies, damned lies, and then there's statistics. It's very easy to control for or add additional factors into your sample size in order to get statistics to say whatever you want them to say. And it's especially bad when it comes to politics and philosophy because a lot of times people will have ideologically motivated reasons to basically lie. And
oh, there we go. PvP, let's fucking go.
That's actually so funny.
This is especially true when you get down to vague discussions of right versus left. Because let's be honest, the political compass is a lot more complicated than that. And so
I mean, this is not inaccurate. Statistics really are just made up numbers. You can make up statistics to say anything. Same with polls. You know, I think Leaf is more of a noticer and aware of things than Kirscher. That's possible. I mean, there are things that I notice as well, but terms of TOS being terms of TOS, actually I should just say TOS being TOS, not really allowed to say that we notice certain things, lest my accounts get nuked off the planet from orbit. Yes, and you need a break. Of course you have a break, right here. You're taking a break with us.
So before getting into the examples I'd like to cover, I'll just go over some general immediate problems you're going to run into when you try and get a study to say something like this.
Thank you,
First off,
Jasper,
you have
the
the
sub.
issue of
Thank you.
politically motivated murder versus politically motivated violence. And depending on which you're covering, well, that's just going to exclude a lot of data that really shouldn't be excluded. With one particular pattern I noticed is that all the studies that tried to claim that it was the left that was less violent, well, they all just conveniently tried to hyper-focus on fatalities only, while ignoring greater property
Thanks,
crimes and
Spreaker,
general political unrest.
for letting me know.
Gee, I wonder why they would do that. The reason behind that just completely eludes me. Okay, seriously though, unfortunately...
Yeah, if
Fiery,
Preacher
but mostly
pings me, it actually
peaceful.
shows up. It's like a big red box that like shows up on my screen. So it helps me to see.
I wish I was joking here. Yes, a lot of these statistics completely ignore things like Antifa and BLM riots.
Of course,
Thank
of
you,
course.
Sarcasm. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Of course
Thank
they
you for
would do
2 bits,
that.
Thank you.
Because, you know, when they
Give us
include that
HP
data,
bars.
it doesn't give them the answer that they want. And then on top of that, you have just a general poor understanding of what constitutes right-wing or left-wing. For example, one of the studies I saw included things like incel ideology into right-wing political violence.
Insane thing to ignore there. Did I miss something? Yeah, let me back up on it.
Studies anyway, because they're very bad. And thus they provide a very good example of why the saying goes that there are lies, damned lies, and then there's statistics.
Yep.
It's very easy to control for or add additional factors into your sample size.
The problem is a lot of the times when people's like ideology doesn't really track, they have to like use some statistics and they're like, oh, well, the statistics say this, but then like a lot of the times it's just bullshit. It's like they basically found a way to like twist the numbers to like basically prove their point, right? So that they don't have to actually get into the philosophical argument.
In order to...
Well, and it's even more disingenuous than that. I mean, as we're seeing here, but what Mentis is diving deep into is that if it doesn't fit the narrative, it's either left out or twisted to all of a sudden become, oh, that's actually right-wing violence. They're literally doing the thing from that episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where the Cardassian is torturing Captain Picard to try and get him to say that there are 5 lights instead of 4. Good God, if only American Krogan hadn't retired, I would love to see what his videos would spark. He'd be more popular than Nick. Probably. You know, I thought I heard that American Krogan might be coming back from retirement. Don't quote me on that, chat. I have no idea. I'm not even really all that familiar with American Krogan. That is like the second time that I have heard his name come up.
You get statistics to say whatever you want them to say. And it's especially bad when it comes to politics and philosophy because a lot of times people will have ideologically motivated reasons to basically lie. And this is especially true when you get down to vague discussions of right versus left. Because let's be honest, the political compass is a lot more complicated than that. And so before getting into the examples I'd like to cover, I'll just go over some general immediate problems you're going to run into when you try and get a study to say something like this. First off, you have the issue of politically motivated murder versus politically motivated violence. And depending on which you're covering, well, that's just going to exclude a lot of data that really shouldn't be excluded. With one particular pattern I noticed is that all the studies that tried to claim that it was the left that was less violent, well, they all just conveniently tried to hyper-focus on fatalities only, while ignoring greater property crimes and general political unrest. Gee, I wonder why they would do that. The reason behind that just completely eludes me. Okay, seriously though, unfortunately, I wish I was joking here. Yes, a lot of these statistics completely...
That is always going to be an infamous headline. You cannot have fiery but mostly peaceful protests. If a protest is fiery, it's not peaceful. Full stop. Well, that's because I've now mentioned him twice. It was me, Betty. It was me, Dio.
That was freaking ridiculous. With like the freaking city burning in the background.
Or things like Antifa and BLM riots.
They were literally doing the Leslie Nielsen meme. Nothing to see here, move along. Meanwhile, everything's just blowing up and crashing down in the background.
Include that data, it doesn't give them the answer that they want. And then on top of that, you have just a general poor understanding of what constitutes right.
You think these people counted Rittenhouse for right-wing violence?
Yes, I have no doubt.
Wing or left wing. For example, one of the studies I saw included things like incel ideology into right-wing political violence, which if you actually look into the incel community, you'll realize that they're actually more centrist. Or in terms of economics, most of them are actually pretty left-leaning. So that's just another basic example of poor methodology. But it also highlights the issue here, where in a lot of these studies, you're going to see the same arguments as the arguments for Tyler Robinson.
That's why I asked for the studies, by the way. Like sometimes when people like they cite some kind of study or some fact, I always ask for it.
And not being left wing. It's kind of a garbage in.
Citation
garbage out
needed,
issue.
always. And even then, if they give you the citation, you can't trust it. Because as we've come to find out, so much of science is compromised. So many scientific studies cannot be replicated. You cannot trust the science. You can't trust the experts. Because they're not really experts, they're just ideologues. They're ideologues, and many of them are just con artists trying to push an agenda.
Doesn't give a fair distinction between what is left and what is right and what is strong evidence and what is weak evidence, well then you're going to end up with some amazingly meaningless data. Another problem is that a lot of these studies don't really account for things like investigation and reporting bias. And what I mean by this are things like just because journalists report on topic X, that doesn't necessarily mean that topic X actually happens more often. But I've seen some of these statistics not really take that into account, and they just assume that,
It's just the old amplification tactic. Zero in on something, amplify it, make it seem like it's this big, huge fucking deal, and turns out, no, it's not really. But that's what fits their narrative, so that's what they push.
oh hey, journalists are more likely to report on right-wing violence, therefore that type of violence is more likely to happen, which of course is completely invalid methodology. It doesn't account
Scared,
for the
his face looks
possibility
quite
that
similar to
journalists
most of my
just
accommodation
over-report
mates.
on things that agree with their ideology. And another particularly malicious issue I spotted was that some of these studies will actually give completely different rules to what is right-wing and what is left-wing. Such as with my earlier example with BLM riots not being counted, some of these studies will actually count the January 6th Capitol riot, but then not count the BLM and Antifa riots. Or another one is they'll count civil rights crimes against...
So that's a compromised data set, and you can't trust it. No, there actually was an episode of Yes Minister that dealt with this. There was a report on some sort of element called metadioxin, and the scientist who conducted the research, under pressure from Jim Hacker, the minister, it didn't change any of the data, but the summary at the beginning changed it up to where it was almost... It went from being this sort of neutral stance to something that sounds good for the people who are wanting to push metadioxin. Like graph is hilarious. BLM riots in Alaska, no way. I don't even know where that is. I think the big one is supposed to be, I don't know if that's Anchorage or Juneau. But yeah, you would think it would be too cold for them to do anything like that.
minorities as quote-unquote right-wing, which honestly ethno-nationalism, if you understand it, is more of a centrist authoritarian thing, not really right-wing, but I'll give it that one simply because that's how most people think of it, unfortunately. But then they won't treat crimes against white people in the same manner, and they won't count that as left-wing violence. So that's another big issue where some of these studies just intentionally do not apply the same logic to both sides, which is, you know, just pretty blatantly deceptive. And also, to be fair here, I did see a little bit of deception coming from the right as well. So for example, I saw one conservative counter-study where they tried to claim that the left is way more violent based on the fact that convicts in the United States are more likely to vote for the Democrats than they are for the Republicans. And the problem with that is it's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum of cooking the data. There's most of the time two ways to cook data and statistics to make them say what you want them to say, and that's to either increase the sample size in a way that doesn't make sense by making it way too broad, or by reducing the sample size to make it unrealistically small, and then editing your methodology either way. There are other ways to cook statistics, but most of the time when I see cooked data, it's someone engaging in one or the other. They're either including things into their sample that don't make sense for them to include.
The thing is like this doesn't only just apply to like politics, this also applies to like
anything.
Science as well.
Anything that you want to.
Which is why a lot of people are like, I don't know about that one, kind of bullshit, right? Because a lot of the times, like, scientists will do this too, to like kind of make their theories like more true by purposely like removing data or purposely like adding data. Oh, not adding
of course.
Data, purposely ignoring data or redefining like their definition being like bad or having like a bad testing method. And then they'll use it as like a cudgel, basically, to be like, well, you don't trust the science? And again, like this happened with like the tetra.
No, we don't trust the science. I mean, we're already seeing with all of this that no, we can't trust this. We can't trust these data sets. Not only that, we've spent the past several years getting arse blasted with propaganda about trust the science, bro. Safe and effective, bro. You know, get the vaccine or you're not allowed to go out and live your life, bro. No. You have absolutely burned through any goodwill and trust that you once had. Nobody trusts any of you anymore. We can't trust anything from them anymore. Anything from the so-called experts. I mean, the first things you need to be asking yourself is, who are these people in the pocket for? Who bought and paid for them? Who benefits from all of this? Those are the big questions you need to be asking. That's why I'm not the biggest fan of Mentis who'll say that ethno-nationalism is somehow centrist and not even explain himself. Just follow along, nod your head, and let the market rail you. Yeah. As we have seen, if the past 10, 15, 20 years have been any indicator, number one, we don't truly have any free markets. But number two, you can't trust a lot of those people in the markets to not do a bunch of shady shit that ultimately fucks over the consumer. And yeah, I mean, I'm no expert. I don't watch a whole lot of Mentis Wave, I'm going to be totally honest, except to react on stream. But most ethno-nationalism has been a distinctly right-wing phenomenon. So the idea of it being centrist somehow is, yeah, that sounds ridiculous. I mean, there are certain forms of leftist ethno-nationalism, usually amongst minority races. But no, ethno-nationalism as we know it and as it is talked about in the current conversation, that is a distinctly right-wing concept and phenomenon.
That guy, right? He's like, my studies show that it's fine. Or like you'll have like the what's his name? The Fats guy? The guy that was like, oh, like studies show, like based on these countries, that like there's a correlation between this substance and heart disease, and then it's like it completely ignores like countries that don't fit within the data.
Or they're excluding things into their sample that they should be including, depending on what they want the data to say. So they're just looking for data to support their conclusion, and then they publish that. And that's just
they've already got a conclusion, and then they're looking for data to back it up.
That guy after was what actually caused even more heart disease. It was kind of crazy, actually. He did like the complete opposite of like the
basic reason why it's entirely rational to be skeptical of empirical data. And since the entire point of the discussion is in relation to what happened to Charlie Kirk, well, it doesn't really make sense to extend that to all convicts and just say, oh, they're more left-leaning, and therefore the left is more violent, because that doesn't really tell you anything in regards to their motive. Because what makes Charlie Kirk's assassination mean what it means is, of course, the motive. If he'd just gotten robbed and murdered by some street thug stealing his wallet, well, that would still suck, and it would still be evil, and it would still be a tragedy. But then obviously that wouldn't have the same meaning behind it in comparison to Tyler Robinson's motives.
Yeah.
And so I believe the reasonable set here, if we want to be honest and fair and compare apples to apples, is to make sure you're focusing only on incidents that have some kind of political motive. But that's also kind of where you run into problems. To show you what I mean, let's dive into some actual examples now, starting with this one, which is this study by Reuters. Ideology behind 18 fatal political attacks identified by Reuters since the Capitol riot. Right-wing 13, not tied to partisan US politics 4, left-wing 1. So this one, right off the bat, is just kind of an obvious example of very low sample size, which gives a dead giveaway that what they define as quote-unquote a political attack has probably been severely stripped down. Low sample sizes generally either indicate a lazy study...
Well, it's kind of like, was it when you have those cases where they'll count... So, for instance, like, they'll say, there have been this many mass shootings in, like, the United States, right? But then you look into the definition of mass shooting, and it's like, was it like 2 or 3 people get shot? And the motive behind it doesn't matter. Like, as in, like, because is it 4? Pre-Hunter says it's 4. But, like, for instance, like, when we think of a mass shooting, right? When you think of one, you think of a person going... What everyone is talking about is a person going to a place and randomly shooting it up. Right? And, true. It also includes the shooter. So if the shooter like isekais himself, that counts as well. Right? So, but typically when we're thinking about mass shootings, like a lot of people are thinking of that specifically, like a person going to a place and shooting it up, right? Yes. But then they would count it as a mass shooting, even if like it was like a very specific targeted thing. Or like, yeah, gang violence. Or
something. Even the term mass shooting has been corrupted to an extent, to the point where, depending on where you look, they'll classify anything like a shooting involving 2 or more people as a mass shooting, which I think sounds ridiculous. I think the figure needs to be much higher than that. You know, the casualty rate or the body count I think the bar needs to be set a little bit higher in order to truly call it a mass shooting. But they're doing it for propaganda reasons. They're calling everything a mass shooting because they still want to try and push gun control and gun confiscation. And so they will call everything a mass shooting with the subtext of this all goes away the minute you surrender all your guns. Spoiler alert, it never goes away. If anything, more guns equals less crime.
Something like that would be counted as it. Even though it's not really the same thing in terms of like the definition is important there, right? Because when we're addressing like random psychos going to a place and shooting it up, it's not like the same thing.
Or a study with a very unreasonable methodology. Or in this case, just being blatantly dishonest. Because the study seems to be from August 2023, and so they're only really going over 2 years here. So that's a very narrow window. It's also a very suspicious window because the year before that, in 2020, we had something around 36 murders that could have been attributed to BLM. And yet they strangely start their study on the January 6th Capitol riot, simply so they don't have to count that. So that's another way to spot bad data when it hyper-focuses on a very narrow date.
They're leaving it out because it doesn't fit their narrative. You get rid of guns, they get replaced with knives and machetes. Yes, like what we're seeing in the UK.
Range, and there's no real reason given why they would do that. So arbitrarily small sample size and arbitrarily small date range, that's two very big red flags before you even look at the data. But even within that window, the only left-wing case they identified was Robert Tells. So that immediately tells you quite a lot. First off, the obvious issue is they're only looking at fatalities and not all property crimes, which doesn't really make much sense because it's absolutely possible for someone to destroy general property while having a political motivation behind that crime. That's again my biggest contention here.
Like you remember
yes, fatalities are worse than no fatalities, but
like you remember the Tesla thing? They're freaking torching Teslas and
Yes, that's a prime example of left-wing violence. And that more than likely also got left out because it doesn't fit the narrative.
property crimes in general, like burning someone's business down, well, that's still bad. It's still gonna ruin someone's life, and it's still arguably political terrorism. But it's also not even correct because there were about 5 verified fatalities during these events during this time period. The catch, however, is that they don't really exhaustively investigate the motivations behind those fatalities in these events. And so there's a tendency by the people going over this data to give good faith to the rioters and assume that anybody who did anything wrong during the riot did not share in any ideology, as well as just other general weird excuses, again similar to the weird excuses given for why Tyler Robinson wasn't left-wing. And this is so common that I can even just think of one example off the top of my head. The Manuel Terán incident, or Tortuguita as he is called. Now, this guy was killed by cops, however the reason he was is because he shot at them first. He was angry that the officers were physically removing their encampment because, you know, they were occupying land that they didn't actually own, and so instead of leaving,
they
he
were
took out a
trespassing
handgun and fired 4 shots at the officers, and even hit one of them, and so naturally they fired back. Now, rightfully, in a case like this,
gosh, what a concept. You shoot at police, they will shoot back. And they will be justified in doing so. Personally, wouldn't mind if people sprayed that symbol on my car. They do it to make you a target. They do it to mark you for death. They're doing it to convey the message, here's one of our enemies, come and exterminate them.
Considered left-wing violence even though it was his own death, because he was the one who escalated the aggressive conflict into that of a fatal conflict.
Yeah.
But these studies don't count it. And so I decided to ask Grok about left-wing fatalities during protests and riots from January 2021.
And this is the problem with like AI, by the way.
0 confirmed, but that is such bullshit. Oh, good lord. Based on comprehensive reviews from sources including the Anti-Defamation League, well, they're a bunch of liars, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, sounds like a left-wing think tank, Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, sounds like a gun control organization, and various government reports such as FBI and DHS assessments, where we know they're always honest, they never lie.
The way, and this goes both ways, obviously. This is the problem with AI, is that AI can get this data wrong, and you have to look at the sources.
To August 2023. And what Grok claims is that there were 0 confirmed fatalities. Now, of course, Grok is not actually correct here. When you read deeper, you just see excuses for why the fatalities that happened at these incidents were not as a result of left-wing ideology. And just like there's weird
protests to attract diverse actors. No, I'm fairly certain they don't. If this is our AI-dominated future, we really are fucked.
weird excuses for the Tortuguita incident, there are, of course, on an individual case-by-case basis, very weird excuses for each of those incidents. And so when you really start to look at this data, you realize that these studies don't actually show that the right is more politically violent. What they actually show is a systemic issue where journalists and investigators try to defend left-wing violence and do not count left-wing violence by not counting any violence as left-wing. A more common study that was being thrown around was one done by the Cato Institute.
Yes,
which is
they lie. And they lie about their lies. Words and figures are just a means for them to deceive people.
very unfortunate because Cato usually publishes good data, but in this instance they failed. This one was debunked at length by the Substack of Jennifer42, and the whole thing can really be summarized by this statement right here. As is the way with these pieces, a ham-fisted attempt was made to just...
How anybody thought the Cato Institute was trustworthy or legitimate, I have no idea. As is the way with these pieces, a ham-fisted attempt was made to justify the exclusion of a great many acts of violence from the political left, while including many absolute absurdities in the right-wing column.
Justified the exclusion of a great many acts of violence from the political left, while including
that
many
really
absolute
does about
absurdities in the right-wing
sums it up,
column.
doesn't it?
And then the article just goes at length into many examples of this miscategorization. And then another example is the ADL study, which was used as the source for a lot of the mainstream media articles.
ADL classic.
About this issue. And yet when you look into it, it too also has pretty much the exact same type of methodological errors, classifying things like prison gang violence or anti-government extremism as quote-unquote right-wing. It's also another one of the studies like the one I mentioned earlier that is clearly excluding a very big thing from their data. I wonder...
I mean, you can call everything... If you call everything right-wing violence, then yes, you can make a study that says, oh no, it's almost exclusively right-wing violence. It's so absurd.
What it is they could be excluding here, based on their claims that 2020 was one of the most peaceful years on record. I just can't put my finger on what they might be excluding from this data. It's just
it was
somehow
definitely, it was fiery, but very peaceful, yes.
Completely escaping me. And then, of course, it excludes
So
a lot of
fiery,
left-wing
but so
violence
peaceful.
for really weird reasons. Like, for instance, saying that the Luigi Mangione incident doesn't count as left-wing violence, because it's not part of left-wing ideology, he just didn't like the healthcare system. That's politically neutral. But if you then look this up, if you ask Google or something, was Luigi Mangione a leftist, you'll find similar avoided reasons. Various
he totally
excuses to not
he's
look at it
absolutely a
as an
champagne
incident of left-wing
socialist.
violence, even though the ideology behind it is heavily supported by many leftists. And of course, same problem. Doesn't count riots, doesn't count general political unrest caused by them, makes excuses for them, and only counts left-wing political violence as left-wing if there's overwhelming evidence for it, while accepting even the tiniest, weakest bit of evidence for classifying it as right-wing. So once again, we see very obviously cooked data here. And really, in my opinion, I don't think it's really possible to get good data on this, because what we're really seeing in all of these studies is that the idea of quote-unquote political violence is very poorly defined. And again, there's no real reason to expect that the people investigate...
And typically, like these things, and that's kind of like why you hear a lot, like when I talk to somebody, I ask for the definition. It's because it's really important. It's really important to have the definition so we even know what we're talking about.
The motives behind the violence.
Most
are
people
interested
can't
in
give you a
labeling it
cogent
as such.
definition.
And so I believe a better way to look at it is to see how people think about political violence. Like, for example, this one right here, acceptability of being happy about an opponent's death. The people who think it's always or usually acceptable are mostly on the far left, and the people who say it's always or usually unacceptable are mostly people on the far right. Now, admit...
And this is a troubling figure, chat. 30% very liberal. I mean, it doesn't take very much to trigger a revolution, a civil war, or social unrest. This is already a dangerously high figure, and I think over the next 5 to 10 years we're only going to see these figures grow. With Luigi, the mafia must have been known to collab with any left-wing branch. They were formed and or revived to oppose Mussolini, for example. Yes.
Admittedly, this study was done on September 11, 2025, so it can be taken with a little bit of a grain of salt here. And of course, most people on the far left say that it is usually unacceptable, so there's some silver lining there, because it shows that most
that's what they
people
say.
are in fact reasonable about this sort of thing. But again, this kind of thing does...
But you break down those numbers, and the usually unacceptable types are right-wing, and even if they are in the left-wing, they're the older cohorts. They're the older generations. The younger generations? They're the ones that'll just tell you to your face violence and even death against their opponents is acceptable. Those people are again eventually going to be entering the halls of power, and they're going to be taking that sort of thinking with them. That should frighten all of us.
Call into question whether it's really the right that is entirely at fault for political violence, because based on people's beliefs, it's clearly not. And then there's another study that kind of looks at this from a rhetorical perspective, like this one right here. Strong liberals say it's morally acceptable to punch Nazis. And this, of course, is in relation to the typical far-left scam rhetoric, where they will basically get away with calling for political violence on a lot of...
They'll practically call anyone who disagrees with them a Nazi. Therefore, in their eyes, it's perfectly legitimate to physically attack and even kill anyone who dares to disagree with them. That's how this whole thing works.
Of big tech platforms and remain fully monetized, unlike right-wing channels, because they advocate for their violence in 2 steps, in a very nice and coordinated Mott and Bailey dance. They will first give reasons for why it is morally justifiable to punch Nazis and fascists and whatever, and of course those justifications are what happened in mid-1900s Germany, but then they will falsely accuse everyone to the right of Obama of being a Nazi or fascist, including libertarians like myself, who strongly oppose pretty much everything mid-1900s Germany ever did. And of course, when you call them out on this, they will retreat to the Mott and pretend like they don't know it.
Dude, this is like... I fucking love this thumbnail. Like, with the fucking mouth, like, the mouth warp, and then just the Asmund picture at the bottom. It's like one of the best thumbnails. I love it.
Exactly what they're doing with this kind of rhetoric. Which then brings me to the final topic, which is that the whole incident, the whole shebang, has also kind of reignited the age-old discussion of free speech. And on this incident, I can absolutely understand where the Republicans are coming from. Yes, Jimmy Kimmel is a very stereotypical example of a annoying lefty midwit. He is absolutely one of those people where just about everything that comes out of his mouth is at best pedantically correct, and usually just flat out wrong. And so to that degree, his firing can
Asmund stays coming back once he finishes The Witcher.
just be seen as an example of physical removal. And of course,
honestly, Asmund deserves a break.
Yes, after everything you went through.
Comes across as obviously deeply unserious.
We've got a new video from Asmund, by the way.
Praising big tech censorship of the right from roughly
probably get to that
2017 to 2024. Honestly, still to today, because they're still doing it, just in case you didn't know that. But anyways, it can definitely be seen as a classic case of people being insincere. Democrats supporting censorship when their preferred party is in power, and then suddenly being against censorship when their party is not in power, or Republicans doing the same thing. It's pretty easy to look at this and just say it's hypocrisy and move on. But I think
Ladies and gentlemen, the Uniparty.
there's a lot more to it than that. Because in my opinion, being a imagine if the roles are reversed cuck is not a good thing to be. Knowing the history of the Republican and Democratic Party, I sincerely doubt that...
Yeah, the whole, imagine if the roles were reversed sort of argument doesn't really work. At least not anymore. I don't think it ever really did. Because, especially the left, they don't care about your standards of hypocrisy. To them, the ends justify the means, and they really don't care who or what they have to use to get their way.
Are censoring left-wingers online is going to have any impact on whether or not Democrats will do the same thing once they're back in power. I mean, let's just be honest, they're probably going to do it again anyway, no matter what. And so on that note, I'd like to once again point out the libertarian principled position on this, which is that
Conservatives have absolutely zero principles. Conservatives can serve nothing. But a lot of them are finally waking up to the reality of things. And finally realizing if we don't focus on winning, we're going to lose. Thankfully, more people are starting to wake up to, you know what, maybe we need to start playing for keeps here. Maybe instead of fighting to not lose, we need to fight to win. And that means getting our hands dirty. That means using our opponents' tactics against them. Which is... you would be amazed how just shockingly effective that is. Robert Greene wrote about it a whole chapter in his book, The 48 Laws of Power. He called it Disarm and Infuriate with a Mirror Effect. Put up the mirror to your opponent and use their tactics against them. It is so effective. And very often they have no defense for it. I love this. We're deporting you to Turkey, but I was born in New Jersey. I know. you still have to go back.
Physical removal from a private property standpoint is really the true sensible take on freedom of speech. Speech is not a reason to go out and murder somebody. That's just pretty much always wrong. Unless they're using speech to directly threaten aggression, you can't really make a very good argument against freedom of speech. However, you can make an argument for why you don't want a person saying certain things.
Yeah, there's limits, such as actionable threatening speech. Threatening to murder someone. That's actionable. You can't do that, but they love the Kalergi plan in the Federal Reserve.
Things on your own property. Someone being kicked out of a party, for instance, for saying some stupid stuff.
This is basically association.
They probably shouldn't have said. Well, that's just property rights being taken to their logical conclusion. And so thus, the principal position on the whole Jimmy Kimmel thing is that the FCC should be abolished. Jimmy Kimmel being fired from a private business for saying stupid crap is perfectly fine. But of course, the mainstream media isn't really a private organization. It's kind of private in name only due to how much government involvement is with these corporations and how much government regulation is involved. And so the correct answer is thus that all of the government involvement should be removed. Scrap all of the subsidies, privatize any necessary functions of the FCC, and then get rid of all the rest. And those of us on the libertarian right have recently been vindicated on this statement, because it's been proven that a lot of the big tech censorship that took place in previous years, like that on Facebook and Google, was in fact just government agents screaming to have their way. And so that's what really needs to happen. Now, of course,
this is why I'll say it again. I'm not a big fan of the government. I'm not a big fan of the government.
Necessarily mean you have to agree with any
Neither am I.
Fuck
censorship
everything
or
up,
agree
man.
with when private companies that are very large decide to censor somebody. You can absolutely criticize them on that, because believing in someone's
One of many
right to
reasons
do
we
a thing
adore
doesn't
our
necessarily
dear
mean
slime
you
girl
believe
here.
that that is a good thing for them to do. But it's important for people to understand that the government involvement in this has been proven to be the main culprit behind all
Dude,
of
this game is anime as fuck. Like, what am I watching?
problems. And that's also how I
pretty
know
epic.
how a lot of the complaints coming from the Democrats on this issue are completely insincere. Because are any of them calling for the abolition of the FCC or anything like that? No, they're just completely reversing on the it's a private platform argument. They don't want to get
They're
rid
gonna cry about it and be like, oh my god, but my free speech. And then, like, the instant they get power, they're gonna do the same thing.
Of course.
And to be fair, I mean, this isn't just them. You know, this also
I
happens.
mean, it's what you do with power. It's the one thing that the right wing has just, they refuse to take power and wield it. And as I've said before, if you do not seize and wield power, someone else will. And they will seize and wield it to be used against you. So you may as well seize and wield power and use it to reward your friends and punish your enemies. It is a tale as old as time. In defeat, malice. In victory, revenge. Don Moose, welcome in. Why does this look like somehow a sweatier version of League? Maybe it is a sweaty version of League. I have no idea what it is that Mentis is playing here. Yeah, that may be cool, Leaflet, but it's not as cool as the Great Rebellion.
You know, I mean, you saw the thing with Pam Bondi, right? It's like the same thing. There's
of
unprincipled.
any of the government power structures or bureaucracy at the heart of the problem. And so that's how you know that it is once again an example of the grift of them pretending to be libertarians and pretending to have libertarian views that they obviously do not actually believe. None of them want
It's totally fair to be like, I don't want to fucking hear it from you guys. Like when they complain about like, oh, but my free speech, like I don't want to fucking hear it.
We're not interested. You wouldn't. They would pay us no mind when it was happening to us. Pay them no mind when it happens to them. Turnabout is fair play.
Dude, they should totally, dude, guys, they should totally go to like gay and trans bakeries and like ask them to bake them like a Charlie Kirk was right about LGBT cake. They should tell them to like bake a cake like that.
I would pay good money to see that.
And then they should sue them when they don't.
FCC to be dismantled. They're just mad that it's Trump's administration that is currently in charge of it. That's all. That's how you know they don't actually believe it. And that's why their whining should not be taken seriously. Anyways, that's all I have to say on this subject. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to support my content, you can do so on Ko-Fi, Subscribestar, or by buying some merch. Of which the Ron Paul merch sale is still going. Mainly because I just haven't been feeling good enough to change it. But anyways, again, thanks for watching. That is all. Till next time.
Another banger. I like Mentis's logic, actually. I'm like a big fan. If you guys don't know Mentos, I'll link you guys. He does a lot of videos like this from the libertarian point of view.
Horses! I really should get one of those Fumo plushies. Let's see. Oh, right. I'm gonna give that a like. Copy the link for that. They do know how to play the game of politics and the ward on the tongue. It's just they never admit they do or reveal their secret openly like a good chef. Yes. Uma Pyoi. Another absolutely wonderful video from our dear, lovely Leaflet. Go give it a watch on YouTube. Go give it a like. Subscribe to her channel. Subscribe to her across all channels. We are base slime girl enjoyers around here for sure. Anyways, yeah. Lots happened with Asmongold in the past month. He has been just going through it. While America and the world was mourning the loss of a free speech icon, Asman had to deal with the loss of his father to a really aggressive form of cancer. As someone whose own father has been through a few bouts of cancer, I have nothing but sympathy for what he's going through, and I can't imagine the pain that he is going to be with him for a long time, and you can tell he's doing his absolute best, but God, life has really just thrown a lot of shit at him lately, and he's just doing the best he can to muddle through it. Action Bastard, welcome in! Slime Girl subscribers only on this channel, yeah! That it has. Oh Christ, his paw died. I never knew, I only recall his voice on Asman's phone a couple of videos back, yeah. No, his dad recently passed away. Anyways, let's give this a watch here.
A lot of you guys have seen the video, right? And so, like, I'm not going to go through this, but, like, long story short is that my dad passed away. He did. And this happened a little bit over 2 weeks ago at this point, and I was very busy dealing with that. It turns out, like, dying is really complicated. Oh my God, there's so much paperwork with it. Holy fuck. And so I've had to deal with that a lot, and yeah, ripped out. I know it
seems so insulting when you think about it, that you are faced with the loss of someone so close to you, and everyone around you just wants to shove paperwork in your face. Some people would just break down in tears. Other people would just become absolutely enraged by that, and rightfully so. It's like, dear God, can this not wait?
It's fucking horrible, and it's been, like, I feel like a lot of it hasn't even really set in like a big case. It hasn't really affected me, and, you know, like, really, I like, yesterday I went into his house, and I just, honestly, I just cried, right? And, I'll just say it, and, first...
I can only imagine. Goes into his house and everything is a reminder of what he's lost. That would break even the strongest of us. Wouldn't blame him if he had a crash out. It certainly sounds like he's had quite a few crash outs lately. I would too. I think I would be vacillating between tears and rage. And, I mean, that is just how raw I would be. I mean, I was already quite emotionally raw when my grandfather died, and little did I know that his death would just absolutely rip apart my family. You know, the paperwork, the cost, yeah, and everyone just wants to deal with it right fucking now, and you are just trying to process everything that's just happened.
First time I really have in quite a while, and let me make sure I turn that down. I think it's a little bit loud. And and you know, it was the first time I had ever since like the first couple of days, and so it was just really it's been really rough. And so my dad passed away, and basically he, you know, it was one of those situations where he just decided pretty much, I mean, he had pancreatic cancer, he had pneumonia 6 times. I'm pretty sure he just decided, man, it's time to clock the fuck out, right? Like,
yeah, that's 6 times pneumonia and pancreatic cancer, that's a hard one to do battle with. Cancer of the pancreas, cancer of the prostate, brain cancer, usually those ones. And then on top of that, 6 bouts with pneumonia at an advanced age. It's hard to keep fighting when your body has become that compromised. It sounds exhausting and painful, yes. I have seen what chemo and radiation did to my father. It absolutely wrecked him. He was just rendered so weak. And that was, in a way, it was traumatizing to see someone that I had regarded as so strong.
Like, I'm done
just He almost rendered a shell of his former self, and he never really recovered from all of that. It, in many ways, left him scarred. It sucks on both ends, because chemo in most days sounds worse than cancer, yes. Very often the cure is worse than the disease.
With this shit, I don't want to deal with this anymore. And that's exactly what he did. And you know, they told me there really wasn't that high of a probability of you know, things were good, right? And then like I'm talking to two of the doctors there. They're telling me it's not a matter of if but when he's coming out of the hospital. I said, okay, great. And then the next day they're calling me as I'm driving over there, telling me that he's probably not going to come out of the hospital. And so that was very, very unpleasant situation, and it was awful, to be honest with you. So that basically is what happened. And then obviously, you know, I was there with them the whole way, all the way through up until the very end, which was very unpleasant, but I'm glad that I did it. And that's kind of what happened. Roller coaster? Yeah, definitely a roller coaster. You end up doing hospice? I did.
It's usually when something like that happens, and I'm sure Asman made these inquiries, but it just raised the questions of how do you go from 24 hours ago, oh yeah, your old man, he's getting out of the hospital. He's going home soon too. 24 hours later, yeah, he's not making it out of here. He's not going to make it out of here. That would understandably raise alarm bells of what the hell happened. And I know if I were in his position, I would be demanding answers and would not be satisfied until I got something resembling an explanation, a good one. The body's a weird, nonsensical thing. Well, yes, the body is in many ways influenced by the mind. If you believe that you are going to recover from something, if you believe in your own strength, that can have an influence on things. I mean, take my dad, for example. First time he got cancer, he went into hospital with a sincere belief that that was it, that he was checking in to hospital to go there to die. And thank God he was surrounded by doctors and specialists who said, no, sir, we have dealt with your situation plenty of times before. This is treatable, and we are going to beat this thing together. Had they not told him that, he probably would have died. Had they not given him some sort of hope, he would be dead. G. Biwasera, thank you for the follow. I believe you're following over on Kick. Second time he got cancer was even worse. That time I was genuinely scared we were going to lose him. And it was to the point where we actually fired his old specialists and hired a new team, because my mother and I believe that the treatment plan that his old team of specialists were putting him through was not helping, and if anything, was going to kill him if they kept it up. Hope is a powerful thing. When I used to work in a nursing home during COVID, almost all the smokers passed away because they were not allowed to smoke. They needed something to occupy that and replace that old habit. Smoking is honestly a terrible addiction. There aren't enough words to describe the absolute horror that it is and the effect that it has on people. My dad, who I've just been telling you about, is a smoker. He has been a smoker since he was about 14 years old, and he's now in his early 80s. He cannot stop. Every time we think we're close to a breakthrough of getting him to stop, he just goes right back to it. I have honestly given up on him when it comes to that. He is who he is, and he is old and stuck in his ways, and nothing that I or anyone else does or says to him is going to change that. You know, they couldn't find something to live for. They weren't even allowed to socialize with their smoking buddies. Yeah, nobody was allowed to socialize with anyone during COVID. It isolated so many people, and that isolation is what killed so many. And that will forever be a point of shame for many societies that implemented such draconian measures over something that was no worse than the annual flu. There's truly a special place in hell for the people who put us through that sort of torture and indignity that was the COVID lockdowns. May God damn them all to hell.
I did. And you know, like it was as comfortable because like he and I had obviously had conversations about this you know, in the past, and, you know, because he's 78. And so, like, because of that, I mean, it was very obvious that, like, you know, this could happen at any time. And so he's like, okay, listen, this is what you're going to do. This is what I want. This is how I want it done. And that's how, you know, like, this is the decision making I want you to do. I executed that decision making, and that's what I did. And so,
just being the good son.
You know, it's weird, right? Because I've lost both my parents now. And I'm kind of just here, you know, I'm just here. I'm an only child, right? And so I'm just kind of here. And it's given me a lot of time to think. And it's given me a lot of time to just kind of, you know, I don't know. I mean, like, and this is something I really didn't kind of talk about a lot in my video, is that ever since I was like, you know, I would say like 23.
He's an only child too. That is especially isolating when an only child loses both of their parents, or even one of them. It is an even bigger gaping hole that is just left behind. And it takes anyone a long time to figure out how to go on from that.
But really 15, like in 2005, somewhere around there, my family, like me and my mom and my dad, got in a really bad accident, and my mom like broke her wrist, and I think they said that she had like a heart attack while they were doing an operation on her or something like that, and she was like never the same after this operation. And so ever since then, I had been having to like kind of take care of her and help her, etc. Then as I got into my early 20s, like, you know, 21, 22, 23, especially 23, you know, things just kind of deteriorated and they got worse. And so at that point, like, I couldn't really move out. I couldn't, you know, go and, you know, pursue anything that I wanted to do because my mom didn't have anybody else. You know, she was here in Austin, Texas. All her family's in Florida. And so, like, I mean, and at that point, I didn't really have like funds to help her any other way. And so I had to take care of her. And so I had put off a lot of, you know, things that I think that you would do. Like I did a lot. Like, I don't want anybody to get an idea that, like, you know, growing up, like, things were bad. I mean, like, things were actually very good in a lot of cases, but there's always negative aspects to it, right? And one of them...
That really is the thing. When you are an only child and you have any sense of devotion to your family, and especially to your parents, you really do put your whole life on hold for them. I feel the same way with a lot of things that I do and have done in my life. I can't help but feel at least a little bit of guilt, like I'm abandoning them. But at the same time, I know that they want me to spread my wings and fly, as it were. But still, you always kind of want to try and clear it with them to get their blessing on something. Like, I'm gone for a month at a time, especially lately, and part of me does feel bad when I have to leave them. For that long. But I know it has to be done. It's harder when you're an only child. I hope he finds someone to share his burdens with. That kind of tragedy is incredibly hard to bear alone. Yeah, there's the running joke that he's got this lovely harem of Kirsch and Pippa, but you know, we do want our Roach King to succeed in life and to really win at life. And safe to say, you are a legit winner in life when you have things like marriage and family. Yes, as Vtuber sad girl harem. That Skyrim OST is drilled into my mind, especially since I 100%ed Skyrim on Steam. Oh, well done. The family, you got to do what you can. Yeah, I try.
Them was that, you know, like for me, I ended up having to take care of her from about, you know, I would say like on a soft level from 15, but like really seriously from like 23 to like 31. Whenever she passed away, I was 31 then. And so then there was like a year and a half, and that was like the Elden Ring, Lost Ark, Johnny Depp saga of my stream, where my dad was healthy, and also my stream was doing, I was streaming all the time, and I didn't have anything that I had to deal with, right? And so then fast forward to like maybe 6 months after that, my dad gets really, really sick. Like, I mean, and this is like one of the things where like one of the reasons why I wasn't as upset about like losing my dad now is that I thought I was going to lose him 2 years ago. Like, I was already past all 5 stages of grief at that point, because like y'all didn't see this because I never talked about it really on my stream, but like he couldn't even get up and walk to the door, right? And so like, and this was going on for like a month. It was
it's such a humiliating indignity for him, and especially painful for Asmund to have to watch that. Yeah, Asman has Kirsche on standby, especially since she made herself available after ghosting Synthetic Man. Yeah, everyone always joking about how they go on a holiday around the same time. And of course, there's also that running joke that if Kirsche is attracted to someone, they there's the risk that she will turn them gay. OptiVR, welcome in.
Really fucking bad. And so at that point, obviously, like, I had to do a lot more for him, and I had to make sure I was available all the time for him. So in a way, like, ever since I was 15, but I would say really, like, in a more, like, defined way, like 20, in like early 20s, I'd say 23, 22 to now, I've spent my entire life basically being a caretaker for one or the other of them, minus about 2 years, maybe a little bit less than 2 years. And so now that they're both gone, there is a it's like a, you know, it's like you're alone and you're also free, right? And that's a very weird feeling for me, because I was thinking, I was like, when people are trying to make plans with me and stuff, and it's like I can actually just kind of do whatever I want to do, right? I can do whatever I want to do, and it's like a bittersweet thing where it's like,
it's kind of freeing, but at the same time you feel incredibly guilty about it, because you realize that has come at great cost, and I mean great cost. And that can be a mental and spiritual struggle to sort of give yourself permission to live and enjoy life. And that struggle is a lot harder than some people think, and for other people it can be extremely difficult. There are some people who spend the rest of their lives denying themselves those opportunities to live because they feel so guilty about it. They think somehow they're doing something wrong, or they're doing something wrong by against the memory of loved ones, when really those loved ones that they have lost would want you to go on. They would want you to live your life. But that internal conflict, that can be a really hard one to grapple with for a lot of people. It's easy to say, oh no, not me. It would never happen to me. Just you wait. It'll happen to you, and it's a battle that you're going to have to fight. That burden can be carried for ages, yes, even passed on to future generations. Sometimes in ways completely imperceptible, like you don't even know you're doing it. Damn, that fox, she ain't got her 9 tails. Cursed Foxu.
I would always resent and hate and be angry at my parents for the obligation that they put on me. But it's unfortunate now that I wish I'd do anything to have it back. But you can't go back, and that's why we're here. My dad, 3 or 4 days, he's on hospice. I come in, it's like 2 or 3 p.m. He's like, why aren't you live? I said, motherfucker, you're dying. What do you mean, why am I not live? He says, oh, right, yeah, yep. Just...
That does sound like Asman Dad.
Oh, yeah, I guess. Yeah, it kind of makes sense, right? And so, yeah, no, I mean, he went out as, you know, as much of a hard ass as he's ever been. And, you know, my dad and I, there was a lot of friction between us growing up and as an adult. I mean, I was very, you know, upset and mad at him about stuff. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't matter, and that's about it. And so I was your biggest fan. He would watch me all the time, like every day, man. He would. And it's really weird for me to think about, like, you know, because he would call into the stream all the time and everything. And it's like, fuck, man. You know, like,
it's all gone now.
It's...
Why aren't you alive? He's a good bean, Asman Dad. It shows he cared. He cared about his son. Wanted him to succeed in what he was doing. And he knew the times when he would normally stream. And he was right there in the view count, watching. Of course, he had his number. Lad steps out of line, he's calling up. Keep him from wandering off the honest path. Because that's what you do when you're a dad. No matter how old your children get, you're still there to steer them on the right path. Fucking hell, next level got a job yet. Of all the things to ask when you go into a hospital room.
It's the end of an era, right? And
yeah,
it sucks. It really sucks. And I don't really talk a lot about like my
Putting it
feelings
mildly.
and emotions and shit like this, right? I'm not a big guy into getting into it, but it's been hard. It really is, and I'm glad to be back. I definitely am, but it's been a rough time. I'll certainly say that, and I mean, I will say he's giving a lot of his stuff away.
I mean, you can't tell.
But I got him recorded on video saying that the 2014 V8 Hemi Performance Package Dodge Challenger is going to me.
Fuck yeah. Let's go. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, I mean, and so I'm
That's some
talking
nice
about this, and
inheritance.
S-Fan messages me. He says, you master looted it. And I was like, wait a minute. I actually master looted a mount in real life. I didn't even realize that until it fucking like he just told me this. I never even thought about it like this. But that's what it was. Yeah, full circle. Yeah, bro, like life imitates art, right? And so yeah, nothing's ever changed. Yeah, exactly, right? And so that's basically.
And as much as we give Asmund shit about his room and the just absolute decrepit condition of his living quarters, I am willing to wager he is going to absolutely baby that car. He got the epic mode. He did. And he is going to baby the hell out of that car. That car is going to be garage kept, polished and shined and washed on a weekly basis, possibly even daily basis, filled up with only the best premium petrol. And he's just, he's going to, that is, his living situation is shit in terms of his room is just always going to be perpetually a mess. That car will be kept immaculate because it's the last thing he has of his dad. And so he is just absolutely going to baby the hell out of that car. Wait a minute, did Osmond Macbeth his dad Duncan in this scenario for this car? No. But I'm sure he really wanted that car, and he wanted to make sure it was documented somewhere. It's like, Dad, I want the car. Am I getting the car? Yeah, son, you're getting the car.
Where
Fuck
it was
yeah, let's
at,
go.
and I'm trying to think what else really has been. What else has been going on really with me besides that? And take us for a ride? Yeah, maybe one day I will. And so yeah, I
That
mean
would be
that's
some good
basically been
content.
how things have been for me.
That would be some good content. And it would be perfect, music-wise, in the background, if he can do it without getting a copyright strike. The closing song from the movie Gran Torino, that Clint Eastwood film, that kind of chill bummer song that they did at the end, singing about the Gran Torino. Yeah, it'd be a nice send-off.
For me, right? And I'm just, it's been a lot for me to deal with. I'll certainly say that. Let me make sure I've got to get all my stream and everything set up here. It's a little bit different. And don't let the car rot. Take care of it, man. Oh, he would complain all the time about me letting the first car that he gave me rot, which, I mean, he gave me the car because I bought him a new car, which, by the way, just in case anybody's thinking about this, I actually bought this car. I bought it for him. And so it's like whenever I'm getting it, like I'm really getting the car that I bought back. And so like, this is not really, yes, it's very generous of him to do this, but I did pay for the car myself. And so, yeah, that's basically been it. And anyway, so yeah, it's repossession, really, whenever you think about it. And anyway, what you have to fight out in court is video enough to get a challenge to state line to go shit. No, I mean, like, I'm his only son. Nobody else. Like, I'm giving away. I'm giving away.
Realistically, nobody's going to be challenging that will. It's going to be a fairly easy process of probate. It's, yeah. That's the one thing with when you're dealing with only children. It makes it, as morbid as it sounds, it makes the probate process a whole lot easier. I should play Kanye's new song when he drives around with a Cuban cigar. Oh, mind you, Cuban cigars are not legal in America. That's a good film, marred by a bad co-star. The Hmong kid kept taking me out of the movie. It was very much a boomer take on younger generations. He should have given that sort of thing to his family, but he just kept viewing them all as just ungrateful bastards, so gives it all away to complete strangers. Not legal, but everyone has them for some reason. They know a guy who also knows a guy whose name happens to be Guy. Or, in a word, smuggling.
Away all of his shit. Like, I mean, not all, obviously not all of it, but like, I'm giving away like 99.
Not to get too far off track, but I'm actually told that Cuban cigars are fairly overrated. Apparently, where it's at these days is the Dominican cigars. This is just what I'm told, secondhand by cigar enjoyers. I don't smoke. My only vice is alcohol, and I rarely drink these days just because of the nature of my job. I'm having to be on the road so much, and so I have to be 100% sober. And, of course, I'm in the midst of battling a cold and taking prescription medicine for that, so that's no drinkies for me.
Like 90% of his money. I'm giving away probably even his house. I'm giving away all the stuff. And, you know, I looked, holy fuck, oh my god. I go over to his house regularly, right? In order to, like, check the mail, etc., right? Do these kinds of things. Every 2 or 3 days, he gets, like, 5 or 10 letters from these like different non-profit charities he would donate to. He would donate to like 50 of these fucking things. And so they're sending a mail constantly asking for money. And it's like, you know, oh, this is a letter. It says, you know, $20 saves 20 dogs. If you donate $10, only 10 dogs die. How much do you want to donate? And it's like, you know, the most blatant and obvious emotional manipulation that you can possibly have. But I've decided that, you know, I'm going to contact all of these different charities and everything. And I'm going to just tell them, like, you know, this is what happened. And I'm just going to make a donation in his and my name just in perpetuity for, like, whatever the amount that he was donating. I'm just going to do that for the rest of... you know, the rest of the time. I think that's what he would have wanted to do.
Yeah,
and
that's a good thing you're doing, lad. Your dad would be proud of you for that. And, I mean, we know Asman, the bro makes, like, what, 40 grand a stream or something like that? He's got millions of dollars. He is not hurting for money. He has got more money than he'll ever know what to do with. Might as well just give it away. So, good on him. You know, that lucky passive income, yes. Active income from streaming, passive income from Starforge and everything else. Yeah, must be that time of year. I had a cold last week. Now my girlfriend has a cold. Yeah, it's my turn. Late last week, I was actually in near Chicago and driving through the Midwest. And of course, for a lot of the farms along major U.S. interstates, it is harvesting season. All that dust got into the air, and I must have breathed something in. That and a combination of just having been on the road for about a month's time, and immune system was not at 100%, and yeah, caught a cold, simple as that. So taking medicine, resting up, trying to look after myself, and but also, you know, finding some time to do things I enjoy, like streaming. So if I sound as though I am slightly ill, it is because I am slightly ill and I am recovering. And so, normally my voice does not sound as deep and as lightly low energy. I don't know, perhaps I'm just being my own worst critic on that. You, the audience, can make the call on how exactly I'm sounding to you. You sound okay. Well, thank you, Pionly. Thank you. Feel better soon, my lord. Thank you, Mushroom. Thank you. I'm definitely on the mend. Amazing what 24 hours worth of oral steroids and cough medicine and plenty of bed rest can do for a person. I definitely did not feel at 100%. That's a bit nasally, yeah. No, I am still a little bit stuffed up. I am making daily use of the Navage to try and clear out some of the gunk in my sinuses, but yeah, I'm having to keep tissues or basically a snot rag at my at my side here to blow my nose, which, talk of which, I'm going to mute now and do exactly that. American medicine is usually give you antibiotics or give you steroids. In this case, the steroids are to activate my immune system or to give it a boost. Be right back a moment while you're doing that. Oh, yeah, please do go blow your nose action.
So it's gonna be a huge pain in the ass because like calling all of them and then doing all of that. But that's what I'm gonna do. And they're scams. I mean, he donated to like Wounded Warriors Salvation Army. He used to go to the Salvation Army whenever he was like like hitchhiking around. And so like really, I don't think it's necessarily a scam. I would be surprised if it was a scam. And so, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. How many dogs are you going to save? I don't know. It's up to him. And whatever he was, the amount that he was saving, that's what I will continue to save.
Good on him. Good on him. Yeah. Give that a like. There's the video. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this in your feed. Right. Why don't we have a bit of... Need to turn in for the night. Have a good night. All right, Mushroom. Take care. Sleep well. I think it's time for a bit of a palate cleanser from all this serious stuff we've been talking about. Let's do some gaming news here. Switch gears to that. Been some announcements as of late, and we were watching a lot of this in the Discord server. We were watching some gameplay of, I don't know if any of you know about this one game called Ananta. Started out in life as a prototype gacha game from a Chinese studio. They've jettisoned the gacha component, and they're just making it this mishmash of all the things you love about certain video games, combining them together and making something that just looks epically brilliant. Scared of antibiotics and steroids, one destroys the natural bacteria your body needs, the other stunts your immune system and maybe contributes to diabetes. Well, thankfully, it's been several years since I've had steroids as treatment for any sort of illness, so I'm not really too concerned about all of that. It's rare that I have to go see a doctor, and it's actually fairly rare that I become seriously ill, but in my line of work I need to be at my best. So yes, same, yeah. Oh my god, all the tabs, yes, all the tabs. Gaze upon them and weep. There's only going to be more tabs. So the idea of me is closing out all tabs, abandon all hope. Ye who enter here.